Chapter 247. Dongfang Yu's brilliant, starry eyes were gentle to the point that they seemed wet, his voice deep yet graceful, appearing as if he was worried and comforting her. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded lightly. I understand. This was Gong Xiaoqing and Cui Haoyan's competition. Her being able to help should already be giving Gong Xiaoqing face. And as for who wins and loses, she was just simply unrelated to it. However, she never liked losing. Stupid woman, if you lose the competition, all you have to do is admit that you're a stupid woman. Gong Xiaoqing spoke apathetically, his gaze staring ahead, just like an exotic calling out. That was how he spoke. Really don't know who he's talking to. What a mannerless bastard. Each and every action of this bastard was stained with the stench of arrogance and disdain. It was a stench that originated from the depths of his character. Seems like I've won already, so why don't you admit you're an idiot? His clear yet crafty eyes were filled with ridicule. Even though the words Gong Xiaoqing said were not arrogant at all, she could hear the hidden consolation inside his words. Basically what he meant was, she lost the competition but she doesn't need to care about it. All she had to was admit she was an idiotic woman and that's all. In fact, whether she admitted it or not, Gong Xiaoqing would still call her by that. If the situation is like this, then to her, there was no difference in either option. Gong Xiaoqing coldly glanced at the quiet Bailey Hongzhuang and then continued walking forward. The corner of her mouth curled into a teasing smile. It seems like this bastard wasn't all that repulsive. When she was bored, she could just tease this facial nerve paralysis bastard for an interesting reaction. Bailey Hongzhuang's crafty charm was seen by Dongfang Yu. His peach blossom-shaped eyes fluttered about, a bright smile on his face. The entrance to the Falling Clouds mountain range was not far at all from the Azure Water School because there would normally be a lot of Azure Water School students entering the range to complete missions. So it was very close. Both the east and west sides have one entrance. The entrance that Bailey Hongzhuang and company arrived at was the east entrance. On the other hand, Bai Junyu and his team entered the west entrance. By noon, they had arrived at the entrance to the Falling Clouds mountain range. Originally, this was just a normal entrance, but as the number of people traveling through here increased, it eventually evolved into a small town. It sold all kinds of things cultivators might need. At the same time, there were merchants who'd come here to buy demonic beast hides. Everyone here lived lives in contact with demonic beast. Gong Xiaoqing and his company of 3 was clearly a frequent visitor to the Fallen Clouds mountain range. When they arrived, there was a multitude of envious yet admiring gazes upon them as they traveled down the street. However, there were even more gazes on Bailey Hongzhuang. Since when did Gong Xiaoqing's group include another woman? And her looks didn't lose to Lu Qingyue at all. Could it be one of Azure Water School's new special enrollment students? I didn't think that the special enrollment students had not only great strength but even beauty. If we're able to become Azure Water School students, how wonderful would that be? Bailey Hongzhuang's line of sight swept over the crowd. No wonder Dai Jiman acted with such haughtiness. This identity alone was enough to attract the envy of thousands. Have you already prepared everything you need? Do you need to buy anything here? Dongfang Yu had a smiling expression upon his face as he gently looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. No need, I've got everything I need. Let's first go to the inn and eat before changing into more durable clothing. Chapter 248. There were many inns near the entrance. Many cultivators would first rest here for a night, and after they recovered their strengths, they would head into Luoyun Mountain. There were also drained cultivators who came back from Luoyun Mountain that stayed at the inns. They would wait until they had recovered before leaving. Because it was a competition, Bailey Hongzhuang's group clearly wouldn't waste their time here. After they ate a simple meal, the 4 people changed into simple combat clothes. Inside the mountain there were thorns growing everywhere. Normal long robes and clothing could easily get caught on them, which would greatly reduce their combative abilities. The moment that Bailey Hongzhuang came out dressed, everyone's eyes seemed to flash with stunning colors. They only see Bailey Hongzhuang wearing a suit of skin-tight, bright red combat clothing. It revealed the perfection of her body without exposing anything. The bright and fresh colors paired with her beautiful face made her very alluring and charming. Her brows revealed a trace of heroic spirit and perseverance, making her seem even more pleasing to the eye. Her black phoenix eyes shined with light, showing her vigor and determination. The Bailey Hongzhuang dressed up in the uniform made Dongfang Yu and others can't help but feel as though they were looking at an illusion. The her like this emitted a dangerous but flirtatious charm, making people unable to take their eyes off of her. Even the cold Gong Xiaoqing showed a slight change in his expression. However, he recovered quickly and no one noticed anything. Lu Qinyue's soft and gentle eyes flashed with amazement. Bailey Hongzhuang in her combat uniform seemed so different from when she was in her usual outfit. In white clothing she looked pure, in red clothing she looked charming. When worn by Bailey Hongzhuang, the two supposedly different styles seemed to fit together perfectly. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes swept over the other three's outfits. Gong Xiaoqing was wearing a black combat uniform. His handsome face was cold and expressionless. His eyes were as cold as ice. His hooked nose also added a few points of sharpness to his features. Dong Fangyu was wearing a light blue combat uniform. His temperament was kinda gentle and he looked elegant and charming. Lu Qinyue was wearing a hibiscus pink combat uniform. With a water-like temperament, she seemed perfect. Even if she was wearing combat uniform, she was still beautiful and charming. After everyone had changed into their battle uniforms, it made them look less soft and tougher, more like cultivators from Azure Water School. "Let's go," Gong Xiaoqing nonchalantly said. His coldness seems to emit from his bones. Even if he is facing familiar teammates, his voice still carried coldness. With that, the four people headed towards Luoyin Mountain. Along the way they encountered many mercenaries and people here for training. Originally Luoyu Mountain didn't have an entrance. It's only because there are multiple people going through the same route, so multiple entrances then appeared. The entrances were usually taken by human cultivators, so there were usually no demonic beasts that appear. One would only run into those demonic beasts deep in the mountain. As Dong Fangyu was walking, he was also explaining things to Bailey Hongzhuang. Since this the first time that Bailey Hongzhuang registered for mercenaries, then this should also be her first time coming to Luoyin Mountain. Bailey Hongzhuang listened to Dong Fangyu's explanation. This basic knowledge was not foreign to her. However, she was now the Bailey Hongzhuang of Fengbo country, so she naturally had to make it seem more real. Lu Qinyue and Gong Xiaoqing were walking in front while Bailey Hongzhuang and Dong Fangyu were behind them. During the journey, there only seemed to be Bailey Hongzhuang and Dong Fangyu's voices. As the four people slowly headed deeper into the mountain, a number of cultivators they encountered decreased. Finally, it was only the four of them walking in the mountain. Chapter 249. The towering trees seemed to be high enough to touch the clouds. The warm sun shone through the gaps of the leaves, only leaving a little bit of light. It can be seen that Luoyin Mountain has a lot of history. Suddenly a subtle sound caught Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' attention. "Be careful." That handsome and cold face showed traces of alertness and cautiousness. Gong Xiaoqing observed his surroundings carefully. There must be some type of demonic beast around. Swish. There was a subtle sound, but they only saw a shadow flash by. The sword in Gong Xiaoqing's hand moved as fast as lightning. A lightning raccoon had been killed by his sword. Lightning raccoon was at Mysterious Ian late stage. It was small in size, quick in action, and had the speed of lightning. Their specialties were sneak attacks, usually leaving their opponents unable to prevent them. Gong Xiaoqing grabbed his sword and the demonic beast's crystal. Then he turned around and walked forward as if nothing had happened. Bailey Hongzhuang's brows lowered slightly. Gong Xiaoqing really was worthy of the title of Azure Water School's #1 student. The keen observation skills and incredible strength made people unable to find any flaws in him. When walking inside of Luoyin Mountain, you can be attacked anytime by demonic beasts. That is why you must pay attention and concentrate on your surroundings. A careless person can easily lose their life here. Reminded Dong Fangyu along the way, Bailey Hongzhuang's group ran into many demonic beasts. Gong Xiaoqing, Dong Fangyu and Lu Qinyue all took turns handling them. In between fights, Dong Fangyu would also carefully inform Bailey Hongzhuang on each demonic beast's weakness and things to keep in mind when battling them. Bailey Hongzhuang realized the demonic beast here and the demonic beast thousands of years in the past had a huge difference. After these thousands of years, these demonic beasts had evolved quite a lot. They had become smarter and were much harder to deal with than before. After all this time, the mysterious continent has already divided all kinds of demonic beasts into a clear system. Now humans were very familiar with these demonic beasts. However, from what Bailey Hongzhuang learned from Dong Fangyu, many demonic beasts gradually disappeared throughout the long history of the years. The demonic beasts that could easily adapt to their surroundings then became stronger, whereas the weaker demonic beasts got weaker and eventually became extinct. It could be said that the demonic beasts now were much stronger than thousands of years before. The night slowly came around and dense black clouds soon covered Luoyin Mountain. This made the already dark mountain to seem even darker and silent. The darkness made people unable to see their fingers when they stretched out their hands. Around them, There were roars of demonic beasts and sounds of birds and insects. The whole Luo Yun mountain seems to be covered in fear. Crackle, Bailey, Hongzhuang and the others were walking inside the mountain. The sounds of them stepping on leaves and branches could be clearly heard in this quiet night. Let's go rest in front over there. Gong Shaoqing's star-bright eyes seemed like a gem shining in the night. It was truly bright and beautiful. They had been looking for a dry place to rest. It's just that before they were walking through a wetland and only managed to walk out of it now. Dong Fangyu smiled and nodded his head. The terrain up ahead is very high. It is very suitable for resting. Soon the four reached the high ground. They waited for Gong Shaoqing to carefully and cautiously inspect the area. Only after it is confirmed that there are no demonic beasts anywhere, did they stable themselves on a sturdy tree to sit down. Bailey, Hongzhuang and the others formed a circle and then sat down. They then start to take out dried food from their bags to eat. After this whole day, do you feel tired? Dong Fangyu's eyes were soft. His handsome and caring face revealed a shallow smile. When cultivators first participate in training as mercenaries, they will always be somewhat unused to it. Chapter 250. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly with her eyes shining brightly. It's fine, I don't feel tired. Compared to the difficult cultivation practices she had gone through before, walking and running for a whole day was easy. There's no way she would feel exhausted from that. The only problem was that this body's physical strength wasn't good enough. She still needed to train more. Oh. Dong Fangyu's brows raised up. His peach blossom-like eyes contained surprise and laughter. I never knew that a general household's miss can handle so much. Dong Fangyu and the others run around outside and play often, so they are already used to the exhaustion. Bailey Hongzhuang was only a new student at Azure Water School. She was also a general's daughter. She most likely has been spoilt and wasn't able to handle such hard work. In fact, Bailey Hongzhuang's behavior was already way better than what he imagined. How many young girls would throw a fit at the thought of going into the mountains? Such a scene wasn't common at all, especially in the common class. They seemed to be everywhere. Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips pulled into a grin. That's because you don't understand me well enough. Children from rich families are usually pampered and spoiled. However, she was not one of those kids. She's always lived worse than a pig or dog. His peach blossom eyes revealed his confusion. He hadn't missed the darkness flickering in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Could there be a story behind it? Gong Shaoqing's eyes flickered and expressionlessly said, she has not done anything but walk today. If she can't even handle that, then she should not be a cultivator. The same cold, unchanging tone. The same tone looking for a beating. Bailey Hongzhuang coldly glanced at Gong Shaoqing. Not one word from that guy's mouth was good. Dong Fangyu smiled, revealing traces of curiosity. Our Gong Shaoqing normally never speak in such long sentences. Ah. If you say it like that, does that mean that he was giving me face? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and asked. Her eyes contained a grin. After getting along for a while, she knew that Gong Shaoqing had a good heart. It's just that his words aren't very pleasant to hear. Dong Fangyu's brows lifted lightly. Although he did not speak, his laughter was very obvious. Lu Qinghua looked at the scene in front of her. Her gentle and water-like eyes showed traces of tension and anxiousness, but that was quickly hidden away. Hongzhuang, you won't mind if I call you by that, right? Lu Qinghua smiled softly. Her voice was like the wind, clear and pleasant to hear. I don't mind. Bailey Hong smiled back. Today Lu Qinghua was walking by Gong Shaoqing, so they didn't speak much. It's your first time doing mercenaries, so you are bound to be unused to it. The next few days will all be like today. If you are unused to it, you can come talk to me. Lu Qinghua's smile was sweet and beautiful. Her soft looks make her seem like a kind sister. It let people put down their guards on her. Thank you for your concern. Her bright phoenix eyes flashed with light. I'm not one of those pampered kids. Since I have decided to come here to cultivate, I have already gotten ready to experience hardship. You guys don't have to care about me. She was not at all new to this, so she didn't need to receive all this special care. The three's eyes all fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. Those dark eyes were calm and persistent as the sun, glowing brightly. Dong Fangyu couldn't help but change the way he saw her. He knew that what Bailey Hongzhuang said was true, not only words of courtesy. She really didn't need everyone to see her as a newbie. That kind of firm and resolute eyes was something he recognized. The reason was that every cultivator that has gone through tough and hard practices would have such eyes, including Gong Shaoqing, including him. Chapter 251. Gong Xiaoqing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Her eyes were clear and bright, able to see straight through people. Bailey Hongzhuang, not wanting to lose, looked straight back at Gong Xiaoqing. The two pairs of eyes met each other. It seemed to be an instant collision. The next moment, Gong Xiaoqing looked away. With his face still indifferent, he said, "If that's the case, then we will not take extra care of you tomorrow and kick up our speed." Because it was Bailey Hongzhuang's first time coming into Luo Yin Mountain today. They purposefully slowed down their speed to take care of Bailey Hongzhuang. Since Bailey Hongzhuang was insisting, then they wouldn't waste any more time. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved up into an enchantingly beautiful smile. Today she had already understood a lot about these demonic beasts 1,000 years later. Tomorrow she would have no problem catching up to everyone's rhythm. Dongfang Yu looked at the beautifully smiling Bailey Hongzhuang. His brows flashed with a strange light. This woman, ever since the beginning, she has revealed so many extraordinary things about herself. She was always giving surprises. A silent night. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others rested there for a night. During that time they hadn't encountered any demonic beasts or danger. It was obvious that Gong Xiaoqing's group has a good amount of experience in living inside the mountain. They knew what area was the safest resting spot. The four people were full of excitement as they continued on with their journey. The armored rhinoceros lived in the inner area of Luo Yin Mountain. From where they are now, it will take them about 3 days to reach the habitat. The speed of the group was clearly much faster today. Bailey Hongzhuang also not pressured by the fast speed at which they were traveling. After Gong Xiaoqing and the others saw Bailey Hongzhuang moving at such a quick speed without any pressure, they also kicked up their speed. They were not so willing to lose this race. Along the way, most of the demonic beasts were killed by Gong Xiaoqing and Dongfang Yu. Lu Qingyue and Bailey Hongzhuang didn't even have to fight. At this rate, the group was moving very fast. Originally it was going to take 3 days for them to reach their destination, but they only needed 2 days. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others creeped along the hill. They looked at a lively armored rhinoceros at the bottom. Armored rhinoceros had a black body and hard and strong metal scales covering its whole body. Below the sunlight, it revealed an iron-like toughness. Its huge size was about the size of 2 fine horses. When it was walking, there were loud thumps. It seemed like it even shook the ground. Armored rhinoceros were usually in groups. They were lucky to come across a lone one. Bailey Hongzhuang, do you want me to kill an armored rhinoceros to show you a demonstration? Dongfang Yu's handsome eyes flashed with concern and worry. For a mysterious Ian middle stage's strength to take on an armored rhinoceros, it would be quite difficult, especially for Bailey Hongzhuang's type that didn't have experience in fighting demonic beasts. Dongfang, this was a singled armored rhinoceros. If you kill it, then it wouldn't be so easy for us to find another singled out one. Lu Qinyue's brows wrinkled slightly. Her beautiful face showed traces of awkwardness. What she said was the truth. When fighting a group of demonic beasts like the armored rhinoceros, one usually killed off just a lone beast that had wandered too far from the others. The other armored rhinoceros in this group would not be too far away. Once one of them was killed and alerted the others, they would all group together and go into a state of cautiousness. At that time, if one wanted to find a singled-out armored rhinoceros, it was not certain how long one would have to wait for one. Dongfang Yu was listening and wanted to say something, but Bailey Hongzhuang beat him to it and said, "Don't worry, I'll be fine." So far, she had not revealed her strength yet, so Dongfang Yu and the others didn't know what she was capable of. It was only an armored rhinoceros. For her, there was no need to feel pressured. Chapter 252. All right, remember to be careful. Dongfang Yu urged. Traces of confusion and surprise appeared in Lu Qinyue's eyes. Dongfang Yu seemed to be especially concerned about Bailey Hongzhuang. Were they really just teammates? She had known Dongfang Yu for a very long time. Although he always treated others politely, this was the first time she saw him so concerned and considerate. She instinctively sensed something was different. Take care. An apathetic voice was suddenly heard. Traces of concern were faintly visible in Gong Xiaoqing's pitch-black pupils. Armored rhinoceros wasn't even easy for him to deal with, never mind a newcomer like Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang was flabbergasted before a confident smile slowly spread across her face. She really didn't expect that Gong Xiaoqing would also caution her. I will. A smile as bright as the sun burst on Bailey Hongzhuang's perfectly delicate, beautiful face. 100 flowers seemed to bloom in that split second, creating an incomparable beauty. Bailey Hongzhuang unsheathed her translucent, blue sword. Her figure seemed just like a cheetah, a swish, sounding as she ran. In the blink of an eye, she was already behind the armored rhinoceros. A trace of surprise flicked in Gong Xiaoqing's eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang's speed wasn't simple. Ding. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't waste any time, the spirit power within her body rushing forth into the blade, causing it to release a faint glow. She brandished the ice-chilling sword, ruthlessly stabbing it towards the armored rhinoceros' soft underbelly. All demonic beasts had weaknesses. Armored rhinoceros had a hard outer shell. Trying to break through its defense wasn't at all easy. By attacking its weak point, you could get twice the effect with half the effort. You could only hear the subtle sounds of a sword piercing skin before a heaven-shakingly loud roar sounded from the armored rhinoceros. Roar? The armored rhinoceros hadn't expected for somebody to suddenly attack it. A burst of pain came from its belly before it could even notice somebody was there. Under the fierce pain, the armored rhinoceros seemed to go mad as it charged rapidly at Bailey Hongzhuang. Rumble. The huge body seemed just like a cannonball as it charged with heaven-shaking momentum. Its bloody mouth was opened wide like a sacrificial bowl, dense, cold air coming out from its needle-sharp teeth, cruel and bloody. Whoa! The armored rhinoceros opened its mouth to bite at Bailey Hongzhuang. If Bailey Hongzhuang were to be bitten, her entire body would be completely mutilated. But Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were calm from beginning to end. Even though she was facing such a crisis, her delicate face wasn't the least bit panicked. Bailey Hongzhuang's speed grew even faster as she rushed straight at the armored rhinoceros. Seeing this, Gong Xiaoqing and the rest were all stunned. What was Bailey Hongzhuang doing? Hongzhuang won't be in danger, will she? Lu Qinyue's clear eyes flashed with worry. Bailey Hongzhuang's move was truly past what they had anticipated. Gong Xiaoqing frowned as he gathered his spirit power, prepared to rush out and rescue Bailey Hongzhuang. The instant Bailey Hongzhuang and the armored rhinoceros were about to collide, her figure suddenly twisted away, slipping past its body like a fish. Even though Bailey Hongzhuang was no longer there, the armored rhinoceros continued to charge. It couldn't stop. Bailey Hongzhuang grabbed the opportunity. Her body tightly slid past the armored rhino as she waved her sword. The ice-chilling sword flew through the air as the subtle sound of sword-piercing flesh once again echoed in the air, causing the armored rhino's blood to gush out violently. Roar! The armored rhinoceros roared even more wildly. Its black eyes were tinged red as it charged even more madly at Bailey Hongzhuang. Chapter 253, The Armored Rhinoceros is Furious. Gong Xiaoqing's voice was downcast. A haze covered his cold and indifferent eyes, hiding what was under so nobody could see. Bailey Hongzhuang already managed to seriously wound the armored rhinoceros with only 2 strokes of her sword. Whether it's strength or mentality, there are no flaws at all. Dongfang Yu's graceful, handsome face was filled with admiration. It was very rare for a new student to give such a performance on their first time out. After an armored rhinoceros' strength bursts out, it isn't easy to deal with it. Lu Qinyue's voice was tender as if water, her dainty, delicate face unreadable. I think that no matter what it is, Bailey Hongzhuang will be able to handle it. Dongfang Yu smiled confidently. He could see that even facing the armored rhinoceros fury, Bailey Hongzhuang was still calm and indifferent, her eyes undisturbed without the slightest wave. She wasn't at all panicked. Rumble. The armored rhinoceros charged forward. Bailey Hongzhuang sheathed her sword and once again faced it head-on. This time, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't slip by but instead jumped up into midair. Her figure flipped over, landing steadily on its back. Her movements were neat and tidy as if it was second nature. It was just like she already knew what would happen. Her carefulness was worthy of admiration. The armored rhino didn't think that this repulsive human would crawl onto its back and frantically shook its body, wanting to throw Bailey Hongzhuang off. But no matter how the armored rhinoceros moved and twisted, Bailey Hongzhuang was stuck on its back. Right now, the fastest way to defeat it was to attack the armored rhino's back. But this time, the mission was to bring back the rhino's intact leather so Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't. The spirit power in her body rushed forth as her middle-stage mysterious Ian strength burst out. Bailey Hongzhuang gathered her spirit power in her right hand, giving out a dazzling light. Storm Cleaver. Bailey Hongzhuang shouted coldly, the berserk, endless strength in her first ruthlessly pounding on the armored rhino. Bang! A dull noise sounded as a heavy object fell to the ground. The armored rhinoceros toppled over with a loud bang, its big eyes slowly losing light. Dongfang Yu and the rest were all astonished. They never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be able to kill the armored rhinoceros so cleanly and efficiently. Originally they had thought that even if Bailey Hongzhuang was strong enough to defeat the armored rhinoceros, their fight would definitely be at least dangerous. But Bailey Hongzhuang's fight was smooth and natural, without the least bit of flaw. Gong Xiaoqing's eyes flickered. Bailey Hongzhuang's fight didn't seem one bit like a shaky novice's. All her responses to the armored rhino were clear and logical, nimbly attacking its weak points. Everything was methodically arranged as if she had lived a life secluded in the mountains. Bailey Hongzhuang easily took out the armored rhino's demonic core. But before Dongfang Yu and the others could congratulate Bailey Hongzhuang, an enormous figure charged at Bailey Hongzhuang like lightning. A heavy shadow covered Bailey Hongzhuang. She raised her eyes and saw another armored rhinoceros facing the one she had just killed. "Be careful," Dongfang Yu cried in alarm. His gentle and soft, handsome face was filled with worry, but they were too far. The armored rhinoceros' arrival was too sudden. There wasn't enough time to save her. Chapter 254 Swish. A fine and powerful sword swept by, startling everyone. Shadowless kill. Bailey Hongzhuang's figure curled into a spin before directly rolling onto the armored rhinoceros's body. In that split second, the armored rhinoceros's belly was split open, blood spraying everywhere. Bailey Hongzhuang even then took advantage of the lighting to extract the armored rhino's demonic core. Thump. Another armored rhinoceros fell to the ground. It had only appeared for a few seconds before dying. Gong Xiaoqing, Dongfang Yu, and Lu Qingyue rushed to Bailey Hongzhuang's side only to see her matchlessly beautiful face calm and indifferent as if it was normal, her black eyes light like water, without the slightest hint of panic. Dark red blood was smeared on her beautifully exquisite face, only increasing her charm and allure. Together with her blazing red clothes, she seemed just like a beautiful evil spirit bewitching the world. A shocked color flitted past Dongfang Yu's eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang's beauty was almost earth-shaking. A single glance was unforgettable. "Bailey Hongzhuang, your battle was breathtaking. Hongzhuang, your skills aren't like a newbie's at all. It looks like our worry was meaningless." Lu Qingyue smiled, her voice gentle and mellow. Gong Xiaoqing inspected Bailey Hongzhuang and didn't speak, but instead looked at her meaningfully. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips quirked into a small smile. She wasn't prepared to hide anything. After all, she'll be working with this team in the future. Even though her performance didn't match the amount of experience her identity should have, it didn't matter. Because almost nobody would ever think that she wasn't the real Bailey Hongzhuang. The leather's in perfect condition. You've completed the mission even better than required. Gong Xiaoqing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, his indifferent voice a little less cold. Dongfang Yu's coquettish eyes had a stunningly beautiful smile to them. "It looks like our originally small team of ours got another demonic little helper." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled, helping Dongfang Yu and the others disassemble the armored rhinoceros. The most valuable part of the armored rhinoceros was its leather. The leather could be used to make very powerful armors, so it was a favorite for many cultivators. But while the four were cutting apart the leather, an untimely voice was suddenly heard. "Gong Xiaoqing, Dongfang Yu, what a coincidence to meet again." The rude and frivolous voice was filled with provocation and hate, obviously filled with bad intentions. Gong Xiaoqing and Dongfang Yu's eyes changed when they heard the voice. "Yihuqing." Gong Xiaoqing's originally frosty face became even colder, a blizzard seeming to appear in his pitch-black pupils. His whole body seemed to emit ice. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyes to look the newcomers. There were 4 of them, all about 18 years old. They were led by a yellow-dressed man. His long black hair was kept high up with goat slick, and his face was dashingly handsome. In the Ross, technically means that he looked anorexically handsome, but I'm assuming the author made a mistake and meant, which means dashingly handsome. His eyes seemed sharp and ruthless like a hawk, his eagle-like nose only adding evil air. His thin, pale lips were pulled into a cruel sneer. One look was enough to know that this guy was born cruel and unreasonable. Not only Yihuqing but the 3 cultivators behind him also reeked of blood and had an aura of death around them. With Bailey Hongzhuang's experience, she knew that the blood on these 4's hands wasn't small at all. Haha, truly enemies on a narrow road. Yihuqing smiled faintly, his eyes cold and vicious as he stared at Gong Xiaoqing and Dongfang Yu. The depths of his pupils hid his extreme envy and resentment. Chapter 255. Bailey Honghong raised her brows. It seems like there's a pretty big grudge between their team and you Huqing's. Huqing, what do you want now? Dong Fengyu's normally graceful and gentle appearance was now like ice, his deep, dark eyes filled with disgust. What do I want now? Huqing smiled, his eyes slowly turning dark. That armored rhinoceros is now mine. Dong Fengyu sneered, you're dreaming. I'm dreaming? Huqing's smile slowly widened. If you don't hand it over, we'll just beat you up. Plus you have 2 women, be careful. After all, my brothers here would be happy to ravage the flowers. In line with Huqing's words, the 3 men behind him all stared at Bailey Honghong and Lu Qingyue filled with interest. Huqing's eyes lit up. I didn't think that Azure Water School would actually get another beauty I haven't seen before. He looked at Bailey Hongzhuang frivolously, not trying to hide the lust in his eyes at all. Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes that were clear like water was filled with distaste and contempt. Huqing's stare only made her disgusted. Where do you think you're looking? There was a clear warning in her cold voice. She hated these sort of annoying and shameless guys the most. Isn't Dibei Chen also annoying and shameless? 3. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's rude warning, Huqing actually smiled instead of getting angry. Compared to that whore Li Qingyue, this little beauty seems to have a lot more than that gentle-as-water personality. Hearing that, Lu Qinyue's elegant, dainty face turned pale. Her figure trembled slightly as if she had suffered a huge blow. Bailey Hongzhuang felt a burst of astonishment. Anyone who saw Lu Qinyue would immediately take her for a goddess, so for Huqing to call her a whore was truly surprising. For Lu Qinyue to be this panicked, there was clearly some history behind them. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was still a bit unconvinced. With Gong Xiaoqing and his group's status in Azure Water School, who would dare to be so hostile? Huqing and his group obviously weren't Azure Water School students, but then otherwise, why would he have history with them? Master, that annoying guy's strength is comparable to Gong Xiaoqing's. Little White called out. Her phoenix eyes suddenly narrowed, a trace of understanding flitting by as Bailey Hongzhuang instantly realized something. A faint possibility floated into her mind. Maybe these 4 people were former students of Azure Water School. After all, to have that much strength at such a young age, they could be considered as cultivation geniuses, absolutely not like ordinary rich prodigal sons. Huqing, don't look for trouble. Gong Xiaoqing's voice was sinisterly cold, his dark pitch-black pupils like ice as a trace of killing intent slowly grew. I am looking for trouble, what can you do about it? Huqing's smile suddenly grew icy, resentment and hatred burning in his eyes. Gong Xiaoqing, you made me fall into this situation, so do you really think that I'd give you an easy time? You brought it upon yourself, you deserve to be driven away from the school. Dong Fengyu's voice was cold and decisive, the icy color of his eyes below freezing. Haha. Huqing walked towards Dong Fengyu. I deserved it? Huqing suddenly raised his voice, his pitch-black pupils seeming to go mad. If it wasn't for that whore, how could I have become like this? All of this, everything is because of you guys. Huqing's veins protruded. As long as Huqing is alive, I will not let you guys have a peaceful life. Chapter 256. Lu Qinyue's face grew even paler, her small, dainty face losing all its blood. Her eyes that were always tranquil like water was now filled with panic and fear as the fog in her eyes grew, like raindrops on a pear blossom. It was truly a pitiful sight. Raindrops on a pear blossom is an idiom meaning tear-stained face of a beauty. Could it be a love triangle? Bailey Hongzhuang rubbed her chin. Although none of them specifically said what had happened, she could faintly guess a few things. A femme fatale. As Azure Water School's #1 beauty, Lu Qinyue was extremely beautiful. But Huqing loved Lu Qinyue immediately and followed her, before finally being expelled from Azure Water School. But the punishment seemed too harsh. There was definitely more to the story. Little Black thought and nodded. This show probably has a lot of things worth watching. Master, me watch? Inside the primordial chaos ring, Baisher shook its fluffy little head, his watery eyes filled with want. Little Black and Little White were both watching outside, so he was the only one inside the ring. He was just about to die out of boredom. Bailey Hongzhuang held her forehead. Why did her demonic beast seem to like watching shows so much? Master, wanna see? Baisher whined, tears instantly filling his watery eyes. His appearance was extremely pitiful. Bailey Hongzhuang felt a burst of helplessness. Baisher really was quite pitiful, spending almost all of his days inside the primordial chaos ring. Now isn't the time to come out, let's wait until this is over first. Baisher clearly wanted to leave the primordial chaos ring immediately, but hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's serious words, he could only obediently nod his little head. Either you leave us the leather or we fight. But the consequences? Think about it thoroughly. Yi Huqing's lips curled into a cold smile, staring icily at Lu Qingyue. His love gave birth to his hate. The leather's ours. Gong Xiaoqing's face was indifferent. Yi Huqing, leave now and I'll pretend nothing just happened. Gong Xiaoqing, spare me your high and mighty attitude. In front of others it's fine, but in front of me what qualifications do you have? An arrogant tone is full of disdain and disgust. A loathful full face cannot surpass Gong Xiaoqing's calm appearance. He just doesn't understand how can this cold and distant ice mountain face make anyone like him. Yi Huqing, you should not go too far with this, said Lu Qingyue with a slight tremble. Her soft and beautiful face showed a sense of seriousness. Lu Qingyue, before I have always thought of you as a goddess. Now you are worthless in my eyes. You better hope to God that you do not fall in my hands. Otherwise I will let you neither live nor die. The words burst out from his mouth. That appearance making one gnashing own teeth has already hated made him hate Lu Qingyue down to his bones. Thinking back to before Yi Huqing was high-spirited and vigorous. Being a special recruit student he was the shining star. Even when compared to Gong Xiaoqing they seemed to be equally strong. However, because of Lu Qingyue this slut, all of his future and potential was destroyed. Even his name was smeared. How can he not hate her? If you will not give up, then we can only fight. Yi Huqing's mouth raised up. He looked highly arrogant, but his expression slowly gained some seriousness. The cruelness in his bones completely exploded. At this moment the original temper disappeared in a flash. Without that wild energy, it revealed Azure Water School's true posture. The strength of a mysterious Ian middle stage burst open. A sharp large sword appeared in his hand, then quickly flashed by. An ice-cold and firm light was dispersed. Chapter 257. Gong Xiaoqing's expression stayed the same. He grasped his long sword, its ice-cold aura radiating through the air. In an instant, it seemed as if his entire being became a sword, sharp and penetrating. Ding ding ding. The two didn't even hesitate at all. The instant they grabbed their weapons they started attacking each other. Their fiery fury surrounded them as their swords clanged and ferociously attacked each other. Their bodies were like tornadoes, their movements fierce and mean, yet as they whirled around each other, it was as if they weren't willing to part. Yi Huqing's three friends also charged towards Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two. Since the fight had already started, then why not make it a group fight? Dong Fangyu narrowed his peach blossom eyes as a sharp and dangerous light quietly flashed in his eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang, Lu Qingyue, in this group of three, there is one that's at the Mysterious Heaven initial stage. I'll take care of him. The other two are Mysterious Yuan late stage. You two should try with all your effort to delay them for a period of time. I will try to resolve everything as quickly as possible. Lu Qingyue was also at the Mysterious Yuan late stage and was equally matched with the other side. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's strength was a little weaker, so it would be dangerous for her. Dongfang, I understand. Lu Qingyue took out her weapon and a guarded expression appeared on her face. Bailey Hongzhuang, you have to be extra careful. If you can't fight them directly, then try to find a way to stall for time. Dongfang Yu turned his head towards Bailey Hongzhuang and warned her. His handsome face was filled with concern and anxiety. The resentment between Yi Huqing and them was very old. It had long since turned into a full-on fight rather than touching on something and then ignoring it. The corner of Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth raised slightly. Her delicate and flawlessly beautiful face did not show a trace of anxiety or nervousness. Relax, I can handle myself. As the Grand Master of an aristocratic family, what type of dangers had she never seen? A mysterious Yuan late-stage cultivator couldn't shock her and make her scared. Looking at those pitch-black, limpid phoenix eyes that were filled with self-confidence and firmness, Dongfang Yu slightly nodded his head, his heart finally settling down somewhat. Immediately he jumped into battle. Meanwhile, Lu Qingyue was already facing one of the men. Beauty, you're so pretty that I almost can't even bear to lay a hand on you. The frivolous voice was filled with bad intentions as Chu Haiqing laughed, looking at Bailey Hongzhuang teasingly. You're only at the middle stage of Mysterious Ian, you're simply not my opponent. It'd be better for you to become my woman than to let your skin and flesh suffer, don't you think? Chu Haiqing looked as if he was about to drool. Lu Qingyue was Yi Huqing's, so naturally he didn't dare have any thoughts about her. But this woman in front of him didn't lose out to Lu Qingyue in the least. She was truly a rare beauty. He almost didn't have the heart to destroy the flower. Bailey Hongzhuang's bright, pitch-black pupils were mocking as she looked disdainfully at the content man in front of her. Her long, shapely brows raised as she spoke, her tone cold and scornful. You? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled bewitchingly. Why don't you piss a pool of water to see what you look like first? Her cold voice was insolent and haughty. Chu Haiqing simply wasn't even in her eyes. It was as if just looking at Chu Haiqing would dirty her eyes. This guy she didn't care about at all. She stood arrogantly in front of Chu Haiqing. His originally smiling face could no longer smile as his lips twitched, a wave of anger sweeping through his eyes. Woman, you're refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Bailey Hongzhuang was calm and indifferent against his threat. How? Bailey Hongzhuang's arrogance was clearly shown in her one-word reply. He was only a little first-level cultivator. What qualifications did he have to speak? Chu Haiqing clearly understood that Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude wasn't the least bit gentle. Since this woman actually provoked his dignity, he didn't mind teaching Bailey Hongzhuang the gap between them. Chapter 258. Chu Haiqing suddenly stepped forward. Strong spirit power burst out as his fist cut through the air, ruthlessly attacking Bailey Hongzhuang's face. His quick and agile fist made a whistling sound as it flew, filled with strength. Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly felt a sharp knife-like burst of pain on her face. But her eyes were firm as she slid away, moving like a shadow. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang slide away just like a demon, Chu Haiqing looked at his punch that was just about to hit Bailey Hongzhuang, the smile on his mouth fading when he realized that she was already no longer there. Storm Cleaver. Bailey Hongzhuang's attack had no hesitation, appearing behind Chu Haiqing like lightning, her martial skill ruthlessly striking at Chu Haiqing's back. Bang! A dull sound rang in the air. Chu Haiqing seemed just like a toad, falling flat on his face like a dog eating feces. Bailey Hongzhuang stood in her original position, a confident smile on her beautiful, clear, cold face. Rays of sunlight danced on her body, making her look even nobler in the dust as if she would ride the wind back at any time. Chu Haiqing's face was extremely ugly. He never thought that he'd be beaten to the ground by such a weak-looking little girl. If this was spread around, he'd definitely lose all his face. Dong Fangyu and the others who were fighting had also noticed, their faces turning shocked. They originally thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would only be able to stall Chu Haiqing and wounding him a bit would already be very good. But they hadn't thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would even be able to get the upper hand in the fight as well. Chu Haiqing's face was boiling. Letting this weak little girl knock him down really was too embarrassing. Yi Huqing frowned, his black eyes filled with disgust and contempt. His voice was as cold as ice. Trash. Getting beaten to the ground by a weak little girl with his strength, what could he be but trash? Chu Haiqing's face was extremely unsightly. Bailey Hongzhuang's attack just now wasn't soft at all, a piercing pain stabbing at his body. He was already injured. You're courting death. Chu Haiqing almost bit off his gums. His originally soft-hearted feelings had completely disappeared, replaced by a bone-deep hatred towards Bailey Hongzhuang. Do you have the strength? Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was cold. This guy shouldn't have thought about her like that earlier. Otherwise he would have to pay the price. Chu Haiqing snorted coldly, no longer arguing with Bailey Hongzhuang. His figure suddenly moved, a long sword now in his hands. He brandished it, sword aura attacking madly at Bailey Hongzhuang's vital parts. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes sharpened. The ice-chilling sword appeared in her hands, dancing wildly in the wind, blocking the slivers of sword aura. Without the slightest intention of retreating, she charged directly at Chu Haiqing. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang charge at him without any fear, Chu Haiqing's heart sneered. Earlier he was only careless. Did Bailey Hongzhuang really think of him as trash? Ding ding ding. The two swords fought, the sounds of gold and iron clashing echoing in the air. But after Chu Haiqing's face changed a bit, Bailey Hongzhuang was actually strong enough to fight him head-on? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed. She had to begin cultivating her body for martial skills as soon as possible. Only by getting stronger can she bypass levels and defeat somebody with a higher cultivation than her. Shadowless kill. The spirit power in her body poured out madly into the ice-chilling sword, making the azure sword glow brilliantly. It was filled with powerful and terrifying strength. Chapter 259. Chu Haicheng's face changed. He could clearly sense a threat from Bailey Hongzhuang's attack. This was a high-grade yellow martial skill. Bailey Hongzhuang had only just entered Azure Water School, but had actually already gotten a high-grade yellow martial skill. It must be known that wielding a high-grade yellow martial skill at the middle stage of Mysterious Ian wasn't easy at all. Plus, getting a high-grade yellow martial skill was also extremely difficult. Flaming Cloud Sword. Chu Haicheng didn't dare to be careless, fully using his middle-grade yellow martial skill to face Bailey Hongzhuang head-on. Ding! The two blades locked in the air, colliding with each other fiercely. The two skills interweaved, continuously eating up the other's energy. They were almost evenly matched. Chu Haicheng's face had already changed into a deep, purple hue. His strength was higher than Bailey Hongzhuang's, but Bailey Hongzhuang's martial skill was stronger than his. So, the situation had turned out like this. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips formed an enchanting smile. The contrast in her bright, red clothes made her seem like an evil spirit, emitting astonishing charm. Chu Haicheng took note of Bailey Hongzhuang's thoughtful smile. He didn't know why, but his heart suddenly had a bad premonition. In a flash, the blue sword drained the red sword's energy, once again attacking Chu Haicheng. Although it was far weaker than before, it still couldn't be underestimated. Chu Haicheng hadn't thought that she would be so tenacious, and by the time he reacted and wanted to block, it was already too late. He could only turn around and escape, intending to hide from the attack. But in the end he was still slower than the sword. His figure flew, his left shoulder drenched in blood. Chu Haicheng screamed. His left arm had almost been chopped in half by her sword. Chu Haicheng's face was deathly pale, staring at Bailey Hongzhuang in terror. He really couldn't believe that this little girl at the middle stage of Mysterious Ian could actually wound him to this extent. Her moves were strategic and ruthless. He knew his own strength, but in front of Bailey Hongzhuang he felt that he was too weak. That disdainful gaze of hers made him panic. It was as if she was a king and anyone before her could only bow their heads. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly walked in front of Chu Haicheng, a mocking smile on her quiet and elegant face. "You said you wanted to kill me?" Her satirizing words fell into Chu Haicheng's ears. His dark face flushed. He was completely humiliated. Today was the first time he had lost so much face. Gong Shaoqing and Yi Huqing's battle was tight, their strength equally matched. Although Gong Shaoqing had Azure Water Shoal's resources, the progress Yi Huqing made by living in the mountain ranges and fighting every day, learning through experience, wasn't small at all. The two's strength was completely equal. Determining a victor would take a very long time. Dong Fangyu was only a hair widths away from breaking through to the middle stage of Mysterious Heaven and completely suppressed his opponent. Finishing him would only take a short amount of time. Lu Qingyue was in a rather difficult situation. Women were never the best at fighting others, let alone her opponent, which seemed to be specialized to deal with her. Under such circumstances, Lu Qingyue was little by little retreating in defeat. Her beautiful face was furious, but there were no other alternatives. After all, beauties were most scared of running into rogues, especially a gentle as water beauty like Lu Qingyue. Chapter 260. Yi Huqing and his team had originally planned to capture Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Qingyue. That way, not only would Gong Shaoqing and Dong Fangyu be at their mercy, they would also be able to get back their face. Unfortunately, Bailey Hongzhuang changed everything. Chu Haicheng wasn't able to handle Bailey Hongzhuang, and had even gotten seriously injured. So, they were at a disadvantage. Dong Fangyu's face was bright as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, filled with surprise and admiration. Bailey Hongzhuang's strength really wasn't like a normal newbie's. Because even amongst Azure Water School's special enrollment students, nobody had fighting strength as stunning as hers. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't stop, directly going to Lu Qingyue. Since they were part of the same group, they were naturally teammates. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang come to help, Lu Qingyue sighed in relief. She really couldn't bear facing such a vulgar man. Gong Shaoqing's eyes were dark and cold, his voice bone-chillingly cold. "You lose." This time Yi Huqing lost. It wasn't that he lost to Gong Shaoqing, but his team who lost to Gong Shaoqing's. Yi Huqing's face was dark, his cold eyes sinister. He looked at Gong Shaoqing unresigned. "You're just lucky this time. Chu Haicheng, that trash." Their originally simple plan was completely destroyed because of that bastard. He actually lost to Gong Shaoqing again. So hateful. Yi Huqing stopped attacking. There was no point in continuing the battle anymore because the outcome is already determined. He turned his gaze. Yi Huchen looked deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang, and waved his large hands. Let's go. After Yi Huchen and the other three left, Gong Xiaoqing and Dong Fangyu went to Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Qinyue's side. How are you two? Gong Xiaoqing's knife-like eyes lost a few bits of coldness. Those light eyes that never carried any expression, showed a few senses of concern. Bailey Hongzhuang lightly shook her head. She turned her head and looks at the Lu Qinyue off to the side. Ever since Yi Huchen showed up, Lu Qinyue's condition didn't seem right. Only afraid that she didn't suffer any physical harm, but received a hard blow in the heart. Gong Xiaoqing walked forward. He walks over to Lu Qinyue's side. He starts to speak in a low voice, but it seemed to be more gentle and soft than normal. You have me here. You don't have to worry. After these words are out, the Lu Qinyue's deep dark eyes suddenly blossomed a bright and dazzling light. It seems as if Gong Xiaoqing was her sunshine that brightened up her deep, darkened heart. Gong Deji, thank you. Her beautiful face, as small as a palm, was still a bit pale, mist in her exquisite eyes. It was like raindrops on a pear blossom, truly making one feel pity. Even though Bailey Hongzhuang was a girl looking at such a Lu Qinyue, her heart also couldn't help but grow a bit soft. A weeping beauty would always be able to shake the heart. Dong Fangyu blinked his coquettish eyes, the pink outer edges of his eyes filled with charm. Bailey Hongzhuang, I hadn't thought that your fighting strength would be so strong. Your performance was truly stunning. Bypassing levels in the fight and beating Chu Haicheng in such a short time, her combat strength really was amazing. He started to get a little curious how the two teachers had managed to find such a heaven-defying talent like Bailey Hongzhuang. A relaxed and astute look flickered by Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful eyes, her cherry-red lips stretching into an enchanting smile. You're flattering me, just flattering me. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's strange and mischievous appearance, Dong Fangyu's eyes shined. This Bailey Hongzhuang was truly hard not to like. Gong Xiaoqing and Lu Qinyue were off to the side, exchanging whispers to each other. Bailey Hongzhuang and Dong Fangyu walked away, giving the pair some space. Chapter 261, You're not curious about Yi Huchen and our relationship? Dong Fangyu raised his eyebrow, smiling as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were calm and clear, the corners of her mouth curling into a faint smile. If you want to tell me, I also won't mind listening. After all, this was their affair. She couldn't open other people's scars just for the sake of satisfying her own curiosity. In fact, she also wasn't very curious because she had already guessed most of what happened. Dong Fangyu's dark eyes showed surprise and appreciation. For Bailey Hongzhuang's age, understanding like this really wasn't easy. At first, he had admired Bailey Hongzhuang's looks and resourcefulness, using the mountain bandits to get rid of her pursuers effortlessly. Now as groupmates in the mountains, he admired Bailey Hongzhuang's courage and maturity. No matter how you looked at it, she didn't have a single flaw. Yi Huchen also used to be an Azure Water School special enrollment student. Dong Fangyu finally told the whole story to Bailey Hongzhuang. In the future they'd all be teammates and would always act together. This wasn't the first time Yi Huchen tried to find trouble with them, and probably also not the last. Knowing the whole story would help the team to harmonize better. From Dong Fangyu, Bailey Hongzhuang got to fully know the ins and outs of the story. So originally, Yi Huchen and Gong Xiaoqing's strength were evenly matched, and it could be said that they were two leading spotlight figures in Azure Water School. Gong Xiaoqing was cold, preferring to cultivate alone. Yi Huchen was comparatively cheerful and liked to make friends. Lu Qinyue, Azure Water School's #1 beauty, had already liked Gong Xiaoqing from a long time ago. But Yi Huchen liked Lu Qinyue. Originally, there was no enmity between Gong Xiaoqing and Yi Huchen. But then when Yi Huchen found out that the one in Lu Qinyue's heart was Gong Xiaoqing, he was filled with unwillingness and anger. He looked for a chance to compete with Gong Xiaoqing, intending to prove himself as Azure Water School's #1 so Lu Qinyue could know that he was the best. But for Gong Xiaoqing, such a boring competition wasn't interesting at all. One day, Yi Huchen sent a slip of paper to Lu Qinyue, telling her to meet in the mountains. Lu Qinyue thought it was Gong Xiaoqing and went to the mountains. When Yi Huchen saw Lu Qinyue actually come, he was filled with happiness. But then Lu Qinyue suddenly turned and walked away abruptly, stirring up Yi Huchen's long-suppressed anger. In that moment he rushed at Lu Qinyue intending to force her. Fortunately, Gong Xiaoqing and Dong Fangyu were also cultivating in the mountains and saved Lu Qinyue. Otherwise, the result would have been too horrible to even think about. Because of this, Yi Huchen was punished and expelled from Azure Water School. Since then there had always been hate and animosity between the two teams. So it's like that. Bailey Honghaung's eyes were filled with understanding. It was more or less the same as what she had guessed earlier. Lu Qingyue suffered a lot of trauma, and was muddle-headed for a long time after that. Gong Xiaoqing thought it was because of him, so he looks after Lu Qingyue a lot. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. I couldn't tell. It looks like Gong Xiaoqing is still quite righteous. Although he's cold and not good at speaking, his personal character is actually rather good. Dong Fangyu winked brightly, a joking smile on his lips. Otherwise I wouldn't be friends with him. Master? Baisher's two small paws kept digging into the ground, his watery eyes filled with anticipation. Didn't they agree that he could come out? How could she forget after a chat? Little Black and Little White sympathized. In fact, they had also never got to go out before. Chapter 262. Bailey Hongzhuang had only just remembered the unwilling, idle little guy and immediately brought him out of the primordial chaos ring. Baisher's whole body was covered in soft, fluffy fur, making him seem just like a cute puppy as he incessantly pulled on Bailey Hongzhuang's robes. Master? Bailey Hongzhuang put Baisher on her shoulder. Baisher's face was very happy, intimately rubbing against the crook of Bailey Hongzhuang's neck. She patted Baisher's head. Although she still didn't know what sort of demonic beast he was, Bailey Hongzhuang still liked him very much. Dong Fangyu looked at Baisher, who had suddenly appeared beside Bailey Hongzhuang, his deep eyes flashing with surprise. Who's this little guy? My contract beast. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled beautifully and then frowned a little, although I still don't know what kind of demonic beast it is. Contract beast. Dong Fangyu was startled. Such a contract beast? Could it be that this young noble miss is raising it just as an ornamental contract beast? But that doesn't seem to match Bailey Hongzhuang's usual temperament. This little guy is a dog? Dong Fangyu reached out to pet Baisher as he spoke. The originally docile and obedient Baisher suddenly bared its fangs, glaring at Dong Fangyu viciously. Dong Fangyu pulled back his hand, his eyes still smiling. I also don't know what sort of demonic beast this is. Seeing Dong Fangyu think of Baisher as a dog, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with helplessness. Could it be? Baisher really was a dog? Her legendary reputation. She had originally wanted to become a famous existence of Xingshan continent, but it seemed like there was already a misstep in her plan. At this moment, Gong Xiaoqing and Lu Qingyue were about done talking. When they turned and saw Baisher on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulders, their faces were both filled with astonishment. This is Bailey Honghaung's contract beast. Dong Fangyu introduced them. Gong Xiaoqing, do you know what kind of demonic beast this is? Gong Xiaoqing inspected the plump little adorable thing before looking at Bailey Hongzhuang thoughtfully. I don't know. Bailey Hongzhuang rolled her eyes. Just now, she had clearly seen Gong Xiaoqing smirk a little at her contract beast's uselessness. Contract beasts weren't something easy at all. Every cultivator only had one chance to get a contract beast, so if one got the opportunity, they would definitely never waste it. Though of course wanting to find a contract beast wasn't at all easy. Many cultivators were so poor that they couldn't even afford the chance to contract one. As Azure Water School's special enrollment students, their futures were limitless, so wanting to get a contract beast wasn't at all an impossible task. A contract beast's biggest use was its power in a battle. But Bailey Hongzhuang's contract beast only seemed to have one purpose, acting cute. But it's cute. Yu Gong Xiaoqing walked forward, his voice falling into Bailey Honghaung's ears. 3 black lines appeared on Bailey Honghaung's forehead. That sentence should be considered a compliment, right? Then how come from Gong Xiaoqing's mouth, it sounded like something completely different. Dong Fangyu and Gong Xiaoqing continued to cut the armored rhinoceros until it was completely dissected. On the side, Lu Qingyue waited with Bailey Hongzhuang. Hongzhuang, your contract beast is so adorable. Lu Qingyue's beautiful eyes were bright, completely helpless against Baisher's cute appearance. Chapter 263, Can I hug it? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Baisher. Recalling his previous aggression towards Dong Fangyu, she shook her head. This little guy doesn't like anyone else but me, so he might bite. Oh. Lu Qingyue was somewhat disappointed but still smiled. He really knows his master. Baisher glanced at Lu Qingyue lazily before happily snuggling into Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder, a bit uneasy. Little Black and Little White glanced at each other. Little Black muttered angrily, this guy stole our seats. He's a contract beast just like us, but look at the difference in treatment. Little White curled his lips. Baisher was lying happily on their master's shoulders while they could only pretend to be ornaments on her head. Heart really hurts. Little White clutched his chest and dropped his head. So depressing. You guys are also my contract beasts? Bailey Hongzhuang's clear phoenix eyes were filled with confusion. We never made a contract, have we? Even though Little Black and Little White had been calling her master ever since the primordial chaos ring acknowledged her as its owner, they never actually made a contract together before. Master, when you contracted with the primordial chaos ring, you also contracted with us. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes became even more confused. Even supposing Little Black and Little White's words were correct. Wasn't everyone only allowed to contract one demonic beast? I have 3 contract beasts? Little Black eyes curved until they seemed just like crescent moons. Master, you're the owner of the primordial chaos ring, so of course you're different from normal people. There's no limit to the number of contract beasts you can get. As your strength grows, the amount of contract beasts you may get also increases. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes brightened up. Although she only found out about this today. Having no limit to her contract beasts really was so convenient. The corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's lips stretched into a smile. The only regret she had about her contract with Baisher was his lack of fighting power. It must be known that until your strength reached a certain level, contract beasts were very, very helpful in a tough battle. Since she had missed such a huge assist, she was obviously a bit regretful. But since now that regret no longer existed, she was naturally very happy. Master, Baisher can see other people, so when can us too? Little Black asked miserably, his face filled with hardship. Speaking of that, they were here first, but Baisher had gotten the first victory already. Bailey Hongzhuang felt herself blush with shame. It wasn't that she was unwilling to let the 2 fluff balls to see others, but who told her contract beast to be so outstanding? So far, no matter if it was Baisher or the 2 fluff balls, she didn't know the species of any of them. Baisher looked like he was just a little puppy, but the 2 fluff balls? They were just too conspicuous. Wait for me to get stronger. Her dark phoenix eyes were serious and determined. Baisher looked completely harmless, so others weren't that envious. But Little Black and Little White were really too special. Not everybody could stay untempted. Little Black and Little White looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's serious face and didn't continue to talk. They understood Bailey Hongzhuang's thoughts. Dongfang Yu quickly put away the leather. There was nothing else of value left on the armored rhinoceros's body. Its flesh wasn't tasty, so they just left it there. So many demonic beasts rushing out at full power was truly a horrifying scene. If the horde overtook you, the only thing left was death. Gong Shaoqing returned very quickly, his handsome, cold face ashen. Quickly run. It's a demonic beast tide. Hearing his words, Dongfang Yu and Lu Qinyue's faces turned deathly pale. With their cultivation levels, they might not be able to survive the demonic beast tide. Demonic beast tide. Lu Qinyue's face was wan, her voice somewhat unbelieving. This sort of rare 100-year event was actually happening to them right now. Chapter 264, we're already done with the armored rhinoceros, so let's head back. Dongfang Yu's voice was gentle. Originally we could have stayed in Luoyin Mountains for a while, but since we made a bet, it's better for us to not tarry. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded lightly, then let's leave early. The 4 no longer stopped, preparing to leave Luoyin Mountains. But at this moment, countless demonic beasts suddenly let out a loud cry, rising and falling in succession, echoing through all of Luoyin Mountain. Roar! The loud, terrifying sounds never stopped. The demonic beasts seemed to be provoked and restless, like the pack was in chaos. The floor began to tremble as a strange mood spread through the air. The 4's faces all turned grave, sensing something bad. What happened? Lu Qinyue's beautiful eyes were filled with astonishment and worry. She had gone to Luoyin Mountains many times before, but this was the first time she had encountered such a situation. Gong Shaoqing's face was heavy. You guys wait here, I'll take a look. Gong Deji, be careful. The moment Gong Shaoqing turned to go deep inside the mountain range, Lu Qinyue's voice rang out. Gong Shaoqing nodded, I'll be back very soon. Dongfang, take care of them. Don't worry. Right now, Dongfang Yu's face no longer had his usual teasing smile. His handsome face was prudent and serious, actually giving people an entirely different impression. The demonic beast's howls grew even more fierce, the sounds of their roars intertwining in the sky. Their deafening bellows were almost enough to make Bailey Hongzhuang's ears bleed. The noises were aggressive, and with so many different roars joining together, it was filled with spirit power. Could be said as a magical song. Bailey Hongzhuang's enchantingly delicate face was serious. Staring at the scene in front of her, a terrible premonition appeared in her heart. She had run into something like this before. It was a demonic beast tide. However, at that time she was quite strong, so even though it had been a narrow escape, she still wasn't wounded by the demonic beast tide. But right now, she was just a newbie that had only begun to cultivate. Master, it seems like a demonic beast tide. Little White's words smashed apart Bailey Hongzhuang's hope. This is dangerous. You have to leave Luoyun Mountains now, or you might lose your life. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with helplessness. It was her first time at Luoyun Mountains, her luck was simply too good. A demonic beast tide was the same as all the demonic beasts in the mountains coming together. It was very rare. All the demonic beasts were stampeding madly in the same direction. Anyone in their way would be directly trampled underfoot. The demonic beasts seemed to lose their wisdom and only knew how to charge forwards wildly, no matter what the species. All the demonic beasts on Luoyun Mountain, how terrifying was that number? So many demonic beasts rushing out at full power was truly a horrifying scene. If the horde overtook you, the only thing left was death. Gong Shaoqing returned very quickly, his handsome, cold face ashen. Quickly run. It's a demonic beast tide. Hearing his words, Dongfang Yu and Lu Qinyue's faces turned deathly pale. With their cultivation levels, they might not be able to survive the demonic beast tide. Demonic beast tide. Lu Qinyue's face was wan, her voice somewhat unbelieving. This sort of rare 100-year event was actually happening to them right now. Chapter 265. The four didn't even have time to talk with each other before madly running towards the exit. Right now, 1 second could spell the difference between life and death. Rumble. The floor constantly shook. Screams of terror sounded behind them, becoming louder and louder as the earth trembled stronger and stronger. The destruction power was even bigger than an earthquake. One moment of carelessness would leave you lying on the floor. The four all ran at their fastest speed possible. Bailey Hongzhuang's moves were swift, creating multiple shadows with nimble steps, just like a ghost. Gong Shaoqing's group of three's speed wasn't bad. As special enrollment students, they all naturally had their own cards. Right now, they had already escaped from the deepest parts of Luoyun Mountain. But how could running out of what took several days' worth to reach be so easy? Run faster. It's a demonic beast tide. Ah! Cries of alarm were everywhere as many cultivators ran beside Bailey Hongzhuang. When everyone saw the tide of demonic beasts, they all immediately dropped whatever they were doing and ran as fast as they could towards the exit. A demonic beast's greatest strengths were their power and speed, so their current pace was utterly terrifying. The tide ran over the earth, breaking down a countless number of trees. It was a disaster. Gong Shaoqing poured spirit power in both his legs, making him even faster. But he then discovered that Bailey Hongzhuang's speed was even faster than him? Dongfang Yu was also astonished. Bailey Hongzhuang's movements now were even more outstanding than when she had been fighting the armored rhinoceros. It seemed like her movement martial arts really were unusual. Bailey Hongzhuang had the weakest cultivation, but Lu Qinyue was the slowest. Her beautiful, flower-like face had long turned pale. Gong Shaoqing directly grabbed Lu Qinyue's hand, boosting her speed. Sensing the warmth of his hand, happiness flickered through Lu Qinyue's eyes. Gong Deji was holding her hand. But under such dangerous circumstances, Lu Qinyue had no time to lose herself in joy. Only by surviving could something be possible. Running at such fast speeds, everyone's spirit power was being consumed extremely quickly. Before long, they all started devouring their qi-returning pills. At such a crucial moment, qi-returning pills were extremely important. The curtain of night slowly descended. Bailey Hongzhuang's group still continued to run. Because of the seemingly never-tired demonic beasts chasing after them, the distance between them had slowly drawn closer. Bursts of pain came from all over their bodies. They had inevitably run into some brambles and thorns, riddling their bodies with cuts and scars. After running non-stop for an entire day, their bodies had reached its limits and their consumption speed of the qi-returning pills was truly frightening. Lu Qinyue only had 4 qi-returning pills left. She knew that Gong Shaoqing and Dongfang Yu had both already ran out, so there were only these 4 pills left. Who knew how long they would last? She passed 3 of the pills to Gong Shaoqing and the rest, a flicker of sadness going past Lu Qinyue's watery eyes. Gong Xiaoqing and Dong Fengyu's faces were extremely ugly. They thought that the mission would be easy and didn't do a lot of preparation. Nobody thought that they'd end up running into a demonic beast tide. Qingyue, it's better to keep the qi returning pills for yourself. Gong Xiaoqing's voice was indifferent but held obvious traces of concern. Chapter 266. Now their probability of surviving was getting smaller and smaller. If the remaining qi returning pills were to be split, probably none of them would survive. Dong Fengyu also didn't accept the pill. He thought the same as Gong Xiaoqing. Gong de ji Dong Feng, with my speed, it's even more impossible to survive. You guys have to persevere. Lu Qinyue's eyes were firm and decisive, directly shoving the pills to Gong Xiaoqing and Dong Fengyu. Out of the four, Lu Qinyue was the slowest. If it wasn't for her, everybody's speed would have been a lot faster. She didn't want to implicate everyone. While everyone was trying to evade the qi returning pills, Bailey Honghong suddenly spoke up. I still have some qi returning pills too, so you guys don't have to worry. She had never liked being unprepared, so even though the mission they came on today wasn't very dangerous, she still prepared a lot of things just in case. But she never thought that this time they'd actually have to use it. When they heard Bailey Hongzhuang's voice, the three's eyes all turned to look at her brightly. Bailey Hongzhuang was as calm as usual. As a pill master, the thing she lacked most were pills she could refine. The ingredients needed to refine a qi returning pill wasn't expensive, and nor was it hard to refine one, so Bailey Hongzhuang had already prepared a lot. Bailey Hongzhuang took out 3 porcelain bottles and handed them out to the other 3. Dong Fengyu opened the bottle and peeked inside. Astonishingly, there were 10 qi returning pills inside. 1 person, 1 bottle. Wouldn't that mean Bailey Hongzhuang had at least 40 qi returning pills? Weren't you just coming to learn through experience? Why did it seem like you came to sell pills instead? Dong Fengyu really wanted to ask. Up to now, the number of cultivators he had seen wasn't small, but this was the first time he saw a cultivator like Bailey Hongzhuang bring along so many pills. Too rich. Although qi returning pills were only first-rank pills because many cultivators wanted them, the price wasn't at all cheap. Bailey Hongzhuang giving them so much at once was really grand. Lu Qinyue blinked, startled. Even as a pill master, she never carried around so many pills. This amount was truly enough to make others shocked. When Gong Xiaoqing's face with facial nerve paralysis saw the pills, a crack appeared on his icy demeanor as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang deeply. Thank you. At such a dangerous moment with these pills there was hope. For them, Bailey Hongzhuang's act was extremely significant. Her beautiful face had a brilliant, careless smile. Fine. If it still isn't enough, I have some more. When the rushing Dong Fengyu heard Bailey Hongzhuang's words, he tripped. This girl? Does she want people to die from anger? Gong Xiaoqing was silent. Coming across such a prodigal and generous teammate, he really didn't know what to say. Lu Qinyue's eyes were thoughtful. As a pill master, she knew a lot about pills. Qi returning pills were an item that would be fought for by cultivators until there was not even a single one left. To have so many qi returning pills, what kind of background did you need to have? Or maybe Bailey Hongzhuang herself was a pill master. Lu Qinyue didn't leave out the possibility. After all, she herself was a pill master, so of course it was possible that Bailey Hongzhuang was one too. Chapter 267. Everybody rushed forward. Behind them, a blood-curdling scream of a cultivator could occasionally be heard. Almost none of the cultivators had prepared enough pills, and their spirit power had long been completely consumed in their hurry to escape. At such a critical time, if they were to slow down even a bit, it'd be the end. Everybody's hearts were filled with dread, afraid that they would be the ones to fall. But even as Bailey Honghong and the rest ran with all their strength, the horde of demonic beasts only got closer and closer. Rumble. A huge sound echoed. Suddenly, the demonic beast tide was only a few hundred away and was approaching at a terrifying speed. They were done for. That thought appeared in everybody's minds. Under the tide of demonic beasts, there was simply nowhere to hide. But at this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest suddenly came upon 2 paths. Take the left road. Gong Xiaoqing immediately chose a direction. A mountain peak was in the middle of the 2 paths. Not even a demonic beast tide could stomp a mountain flat. There was a secret cave on the left road. If they could hide in the cave, they might be able to survive. Gong Xiaoqing pulled Lu Qinyue's hand, quickly running to the left road. The other cultivators had long lost their own judgment, so when they heard Gong Xiaoqing's words, they all immediately ran to the left path as well. If the demonic beasts could be said to have gone from slow to fast, seeing the cultivators in front of them scramble around like chickens, their speed grew even faster. The distance instantly closed by several tens of meters. Now, all the cultivators could clearly sense the demonic beast's breath behind their backs. Dongfang Yu reached out his hand, trying to pull Bailey Hongzhuang back. But because of all the brambles and trees they had to evade while escaping, the distance between them had grown a bit wide. Right now, Bailey Hongzhuang was very close to going on the right road. In her current circumstances, there was no way for her to change paths alone. Because if she slowed down even a bit, the only thing left was death. Bailey Hongzhuang also reached out her hand. The only way to get to the left road was by accepting Dongfang Yu's help. But the other cultivators were running as if they were mad, separating Dongfang Yu and Bailey Hongzhuang's outstretched hands. Bailey Hongzhuang. Dongfang Yu's handsome face was pale. They had missed their only opportunity. Missing it would separate them in a way made them no different from the separate entities of yin and yang. Damn. Bailey Hongzhuang ground her teeth. This group of cultivators was just too hateful. Now the situation was already irreversible. She could only continue on the right road. After reaching the crossroad, the demonic beast tide split up into two groups and continued to give chase. Master, it's dangerous. Little Black's face was serious. There was only a bit more than 5 meters between them and the terrifying demonic beast tide. At this point, even they didn't know what to do. Is there really no way? Her beautiful, delicate face was unwilling and helpless. She absolutely could not accept this kind of death. There's a cliff ahead. Little White suddenly spoke. Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes sharpened as her heart slowly came to a decision. Since she would die anyway, it was better to run to the cliff and jump than be trampled underfoot by the demonic beasts. Chapter 268. Bailey Hongzhuang's speed accelerated once more. Since she had already lost her will to survive, she might as well go all out. The originally constantly nearing gap between her and beasts was slowly starting to widen. Almost all the cultivators heard Gong Shaoqing's words and charged into the left lane. The other cultivators were all dead under the demonic beast tide, so Bailey Hongzhuang was the only one still running on the right lane. The precipice was just ahead. A decisive light appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's dark eyes. Right now she had no other choice. Behind her, the demonic beasts were throwing themselves towards Bailey Hongzhuang. Their mouths opened up wide as cold light reflected off their sharp, bloody teeth. But just as the demonic beast's jaws were about to clamp onto Bailey Hongzhuang's neck, there was suddenly a loud roar. Roar! A young and tender, but fierce suddenly came from Baisher's throat, his small and weak figure forming a huge contrast with the three big ferocious demonic beasts. It was extremely arrogant. But when Baisher roared, the originally 3 lunging demonic beasts actually stopped, trembling as they looked at him. Under that roar, the mad demonic beast tide actually stopped. Roar! Baisher roared once more, and the originally baffled demonic beasts started to crawl on the floor, their huge, terrifying figures actually shivering on the ground. Bailey Hongzhuang's dark phoenix eyes were filled with shock and amazement, her figure which was about to jump down the cliff abruptly halting. Bailey Hongzhuang stared at the prostrating demonic beasts in front of her. Their reaction seemed as if they were instinctively afraid of Baisher. What kind of joke was this? These huge, terrifying demonic beasts were actually scared of the little guy on her shoulder? Little Black and Little White also looked at Baisher, astonished. They didn't expect that this little guy would actually have such an ability. Baisher lazily stretched before once again snuggling back on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder. He was sleeping, but those repulsive guys just had to disturb him. Bailey Hongzhuang was stunned. It seemed like her previous judgment was wrong. Baisher really wasn't a normal demonic beast, but its deviously cute appearance was simply to deceive. What kind of strength was enough that a single roar was enough to stop a demonic beast tide from moving? Nobody else had the power to but the demonic beasts at the very top of the pyramid. Demonic beasts and humans cultivated differently. For humans, no matter how strong the parents were, their children all still had to cultivate from the beginning. But demonic beasts had a more hierarchical concept. If the species was strong, then the offspring would be strong. Even a newly born demonic beast, with its species' deterrence power, could scare all the other demonic beasts away. Clearly, Baisher's species wasn't simple. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned, even more confused. She knew about almost all of the top demonic beasts, but how come she never saw anything like Baisher? But regardless, none of that mattered. Just knowing Baisher's amazingness was enough. The demonic beast tide was stopped and she had managed to survive without jumping down a cliff. Thinking of this, Bailey Honghong couldn't help but sigh with relief. Baisher, let these guys leave. The corners of Bailey Honghong's lips curled into an enchanting smile. Ordering so many demonic beasts felt so good. Roar! Baisher roared once more. The other demonic beasts glanced quickly at him before running away frantically, as if they had received amnesty. Chapter 279. In a flash, all the demonic beasts flew away in front of Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Baisher, who was on her shoulder. His face was filled with pride and anticipation as he happily rubbed against Bailey Hongzhuang, clearly wanting praise. But Bailey Hongzhuang just smacked Baisher's head, retorting angrily, "You could have just roared and solved everything. You almost let your master jump off a cliff." Now, as she remembered how she had given up hope and nearly fell into despair, this little guy could have long fixed everything with just a call. When the eagerly awaiting Baisher was smacked instead of rewarded, his big watery eyes filled with a misty sheen as his little mouth formed a pout. Its small body curled up in Bailey Hongzhuang's bosom, appearing very pitiful. Even though she knew that the little guy was deliberately acting pitiful, Bailey Hongzhuang no longer had the heart to scold him anymore. Instead of taking out the demonic crystal from the armored rhinoceros to give to Baisher, the tears in his eyes instantly disappeared when he saw the crystal. His eyes shined brightly as he immediately snatched the crystal and began to gnaw on it. Really, this guy truly was best at acting cute. Bailey Hongzhuang put Baisher back onto her shoulders. Her plight was over, but what about Gong Shaoqing and the others? Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to leave, she suddenly heard a small sound. Her eyes turned cold. There was actually somebody here. Bailey Hongzhuang's spirit power surged through her body as she cautiously approached the direction of the sound, prepared to fight. At the back of the mountain, a big boulder blocked her sight. The other person was clearly behind that boulder. "Who's there?" Her cold voice was laced with a warning as she stared at the rock. "Miss, I'm only here to avoid the demonic beast tide." A hoarse, low voice came from behind the boulder, causing Bailey Hongzhuang to frown a little. From her voice she could tell that he was in a weak state and injured. Life-threateningly injured. Bailey Hongzhuang's dark eyes were sharp. She did not want Baisher's secret to be exposed. Holding the ice-chilling sword, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly sneaked past the boulder. A man was lying on the boulder, black hair pouring down in torrents beside him. His handsome face was like a piece of art carved by the gods themselves, sword-like eyebrows long and straight like a willow. His eminent eyes were deep like a black hole, cold and ruthless. He was wearing a soft black robe, the color deep and inky, propitious clouds embroidered on it with silver thread. It was luxurious yet subdued. The man's robes were slightly loose, revealing his exquisite collarbones and chin, radiating sex appeal. If you looked down just a bit, dark blood had already dyed the robes red. With only a glance, Bailey Honghong could already tell the injury was very serious. But even in such a situation, the man actually still smiled. His smile was cold and violent, but it was still impossible to deny his handsome face, still filled with charm and fascination. In short, this man was extremely dangerous. Bailey Honghong's intuition told her that the man wasn't simple and wouldn't allow himself to be touched. "It's better to just leave." Just as Bailey Honghong turned around to leave, an icy voice rang, "Woman, why don't we make a deal?" A trace of interest flitted past Moyunju's dark eyes. When he saw Bailey Honghong and Baisher, he thought they were rather interesting. Chapter 270. The grand and stately demonic beast king actually acknowledged a mere mysterious earth middle stage cultivation woman as its master, and what was even more interesting, is that the woman didn't even know the one she had contracted with was the demonic beast king. While he was sizing up Bailey Hongzhuang, he hadn't missed the trace of ruthless killing intent flicking past her eyes. It seemed like this woman wasn't as simple as she looked. Right now his injury was very serious. If he could get the demonic beast king's blood, he'd be able to heal much faster. Not interested. Bailey Honghong continued to walk away without any hint of hesitation. "What about if I know who the contract beast sitting on your shoulder is?" Bailey Hongzhuang's footsteps paused as she slowly turned to look at Moyunju, her penetrating eyes a bit sly. She asked coldly and bluntly, "Conditions?" "The little guy's blood." Moyunju's voice was indifferent but then added, "To treat my injury." When Moyunju brought up Baisher's blood, Bailey Hongzhuang had already decided to refuse. But then when she heard that it was to treat his wound, she became a little hesitant. How about I cure your wound and you tell me Baisher's identity? Moyunju's eyes flashed as he replied, Woman, aren't you afraid that I'll kill you after you treat me? Don't forget that your injury is under my control. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was indifferent, her bright, crystal-clear eyes filled with wisdom and self-confidence. Although she was definitely inferior to this man in terms of strength, he also wasn't her opponent when it came to medical techniques. Her simply reply actually hit a cold front. Moyunju glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang thoughtfully. It's a deal. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly kneeled next to Moyunju. Speak. Moyunju's eyes were a bit bright. Up to now, he had never seen a woman dare to be so close to him. And the most interesting thing was that even though this woman was so weak, she was still brave enough to face him confidently. He was always an existing feared by everybody, so talking to a woman this closely was a new experience. The little guy on your shoulder is the demonic beast king. When she heard him speak, Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful eyes lit up, a wave of shock and amazement washing over her heart. She looked at the king character on Baisher's forehead and understood. Demonic beast kings were the kings of demonic beasts, classified as a mythical race. Demonic beast kings and other demonic beasts of the mythical race were a mystery and held power acknowledged by all the other demonic beasts. Also, there could only be one demonic beast king at a time. Only when the previous generation dies could the next generation be born. Even though she also never once saw what a demonic beast king looked like, she hadn't expected that this seemingly powerless, cute little guy would actually be the demonic beast king. She didn't doubt Moyunju's words at all. This was the most probable answer. Moyunju watched Bailey Hongzhuang's expressions change. It seemed like that was actually in her expectations. Gong Shaoqing and the others managed to successfully hide in the cave. Watching the demonic beast zip by unceasingly outside, the three's hearts were all shocked. Demonic beast tides were truly too terrifying. Even though they heard about its dangers before, actually experiencing it made them clearly understand that their previous thoughts were far too simple. Lu Qinghua deeply sighed, her beautiful face still pale. This feeling of surviving the calamity truly made one feel endlessly grateful. Chapter 271. Check back soon. Such a terrifying demonic beast tide, if they hadn't luckily managed to find a cave to hide in, they long would have been trampled to death. Dongfang Yu's face was extremely difficult to describe, his eyes filled with a constrained fury. Bailey Hongzhuang, it was only one step. If he had managed to grab Bailey Hongzhuang back then, the current situation wouldn't be like this. Gong Shaoqing's eyes also revealed his self-blame and unhappiness. If it wasn't for that guy disrupting things, how would Bailey Hongzhuang have sunk into such a dangerous situation? Although they didn't know what would happen on the right side road, they could already foresee what would happen from here. Bailey Hongzhuang had no chance of survival. It was their first time taking Bailey Hongzhuang out for a mission and the teachers entrusted her to their care, but they had allowed Bailey Hongzhuang to lose her life. Lu Qinghua's face was pale, her slim, fair hands covering her mouth as her eyes turned misty. They were just hunting demonic beasts together a few hours ago. Nobody expected that in such a short time, Bailey Hongzhuang would lose her life. Dongfang Yu could only feel a hard-to-describe pain and fury burning in the bottom of his stomach with no way to vent it. This was the first time he experienced such a feeling. It was strange but suffocating. Damn it. Dongfang Yu grabbed the collar of the elated man next to him, directly pushing the man into the air. If it wasn't for this man running between them midway, Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't have died. Bang. Dongfang Yu ruthlessly punched the man's face, sending the man flying several meters away. Panic appeared on the man's face. He immediately understood why Dongfang Yu had hit him. Although his heart was somewhat sullen, he didn't dare to say anything. After all, Dongfang Yu was just too strong. Plus, it was him who was in the wrong. At such a critical juncture, he only wanted to save his own life. So even if he could choose all over again, he would still pick the same option. Bang bang bang. Dongfang Yu continued to punch the man's body, treating him as if he was a punching bag. But even though he did that, he was still unable to vent the suffocating pain and anger burning in his heart. The man was badly battered and spouting blood, but could only receive it passively. Gong Shaoqing just stared at the man coldly, finally also sending the man flying into a rock with a kick. Clearly, Gong Shaoqing's heart was also unpleasant. Lu Qinghua's eyes were filled with shock and confusion when she saw Gong Shaoqing's kick. She had almost never seen Gong Shaoqing do such a thing before. It was also the first time she had seen Dongfang Yu act so emotionally. As cultivators, they never really experienced the feeling of losing a comrade. But still, Dongfang Yu had never been as angry as today. Gong de Ji Dongfang Hongzhuang's accident was something none of us thought would happen. Lu Qinghua comforted. But Gong Xiaoqing and Dongfang Yu didn't reply. They clearly didn't care the slightest bit about Lu Qinghua's consultation. I hope Bailey Hongzhuang will be alright. Dongfang Yu's expression was sincere and earnest. Even though he knew the probability was extremely small, he still held a gleam of hope. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the wound going across almost half of Mo Yunju's body, astonishment flashing in her eyes. This wound, if it was just the slightest bit deeper, Mo Yunju definitely won't even have a single chance of surviving. But even like this, if Mo Yunju continued to dilly-dally, he'd be throwing away his life. The wound was faintly black. Mo Yunju had been poisoned. Chapter 272. But even with such a serious injury, this man was still able to sit here calmly to watch the show. Such a temperament was truly exceptional. Hurts? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask. His injury was truly terrible. Mo Yunju's ice-cold face suddenly turned stiff as he stared at Bailey Hongzhuang, astonished as if he couldn't believe what he had heard. Painful. Nobody had ever asked him if it was painful before. In his world there was only success and failure. There were never any activities or emotions like pain. Never had a person asked him how he felt, so when this strange woman asked, his heart couldn't help but tremble for a split second. Seeing Mo Yunju staying silent, Bailey Hongzhuang no longer hesitated. If she continued to delay it, Mo Yunju's life would truly be lost. Opening her bag of needles, Bailey Hongzhuang carefully began to detoxify Mo Yunju. She had to dissolve the poison before binding his wound. When Mo Yunju saw her moving so busily and resolutely, a trace of confusion crossed through his dark eyes. What was this type of medical treatment? Could it be those long-lost acupuncture techniques? If it was another person, he probably would have believed that they were only trying to stall for time until he died. But seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's forehead beaded with sweat, he knew that she was seriously trying to help him. She was truly an interesting woman, still keeping her promises. With Bailey Hongzhuang's acupuncture, the black color in his wound slowly faded away, turning back into a bright, scarlet red. Mo Yunju's eyes gradually changed. He seemed to have found an amazing girl. The Yunmeng cloud weed he had swallowed was extremely poisonous and wasn't something an ordinary person could do anything about. Yet, this girl had actually managed to completely dissolve it. Bailey Hongzhuang meticulously finished everything, her actions familiar and nimble. A high-grade medicine was applied to his wound before bandaging Mo Yunju securely. Done. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyes, reaching out to hand Mo Yunju a white porcelain bottle. There are 3 pills inside. Take one every day and the poison in you should be completely eradicated. Lowering her voice tone, Bailey Hongzhuang stood up. I'm going. She still didn't know what had happened with Dongfang Yu and the others, so she had to go meet up with them as soon as she could. What's your name? Mo Yunju's voice was muffled and hoarse as his eyes flickered with light. Bailey Hongzhuang hesitated for a moment before replying. Bailey Hongzhuang. Mo Yunju. Taking note of his name, Bailey Hongzhuang quickly walked back to Dongfang Yu's and the others' direction. She could only wish that the 3 of them were safe and sound. From Gong Xiaoqing's previously confident words, she knew that they should be hiding away in a cave. If there wasn't an accident, the 3 of them shouldn't be in danger. Dongfang Yu and the others were still in the cave, waiting for the demonic beast tide to pass, to no avail. There were simply too many. Even after waiting for half the day, the tide still didn't finish, leaving them completely helpless. When will this damn demonic beast tide finish? Dongfang Yu's normally gentle and graceful appearance was gone, replaced by a tsunami surging in the depths of his eyes. Gong Xiaoqing kept silent, his eyes also dark and gloomy. The mood was suffocating. When the people in the cave saw Gong Xiaoqing and Dongfang Yu's faces, they didn't dare to even breathe. Azure Water School's special enrollment students were not only extremely strong but also had limitless potential. They simply weren't their opponents. Seeing the man beaten half dead on the ground, they couldn't help but shrink back their heads. They absolutely couldn't provoke them. Otherwise, an even more miserable fate would probably fall onto them. Chapter 273. The demonic beast tide rushed past, making the ground tremble violently. The force made some of the rock in the cave crumble. The cavern was tottering as if it would collapse at any time. Everyone was scared and on the edge. They could only pray for the demonic beast tide to quickly pass. At last, the floor's trembling slowly diminished as all of the demonic beasts passed them. Dongfang Yu quickly left the cave, going in Bailey Hongzhuang's direction without the slightest hesitation. No emotion could be seen on his handsome, jade-like face. His mood was extremely complicated. He truly hoped that nothing happened to Bailey Hongzhuang, but was also worried that she would hate him for his uselessness. Gong Shaoqing and Lu Qingyue followed, their steps extremely fast. They all wanted to hurry to Bailey Hongzhuang. After Dongfang Yu and the others left, everyone else in the cave all couldn't help but sigh with relief. Bailey Hongzhuang walked to the left path. The demonic beast completely devastated the surrounding area, turning it into a mess. The 100-something-year-old trees were all toppled over, ground into a fine dust. No matter what time it was, the havoc left by the demonic beast tide would always be terrifying. But after the demonic beast tide was over, both Azure Water School and the Mercenary Trade Union would suffer a big loss. "Master, there's 3 people approaching us at a high speed," Little White reported. Bailey Honghaung's bright phoenix eyes were filled with smiles. She was correct, those 3 should be Dongfang Yu and the others. Soon, 3 specks of light appeared, zooming towards her at a high speed. They really were Dongfang Yu and the others. Dongfang Yu, Gong Shaoqing, and Lu Qinyue's hearts were filled with worry as they rushed here, cutting apart everything that was in their way. The air was a bit bloody. The number of cultivators crushed to death by the demonic beasts wasn't few at all. While they were hurrying forward, a fiery red-robed figure suddenly appeared in their vision. In such messy and empty surroundings, the enchanting red figure seemed exceptionally eye-catching. Bailey Hongzhuang? Dongfang Yu rubbed his eyes, staring at that smiling face in front of him, shocked. "What? Is seeing me very strange?" A smile blossomed on Bailey Hongzhuang's face. Under the bright sunshine, her smile seemed even more charming. She didn't miss the worry and joy reflected in Dongfang Yu's eyes. And although the time they had known each other hadn't been long, he wanted to consider her a close friend. Otherwise, he wouldn't have rushed out to look for her as soon as the demonic beast tide finished. "You're safe." Dongfang Yu's voice was filled with doubt as he inspected Bailey Hongzhuang from top to bottom, discovering that she didn't have any serious injuries. Gong Shaoqing and Lu Qinyue looked at the completely unharmed Bailey Hongzhuang, their eyes filled with amazement. Their tense faces relaxed as they smiled with relief. "I'm all right." Her clear, beautiful face had a bright smile as her eyes seemed to light up. One is bound for good fortune after surviving a great disaster. Dongfang Yu sighed deeply with relief. He had almost been scared to death earlier, so now that he saw Bailey Hongzhuang was safe and sound, his mood quickly turned bright and sunny again. "How did you avoid the demonic beast tide?" Gong Shaoqing's eyes were filled with doubt and confusion. He knew the terrain here very well. The right path Bailey Hongzhuang took was a dead end over a cliff. There was simply nowhere to hide. Chapter 274 Secret. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and didn't explain. Even though she had an explanation, it'd be hard for Gong Shaoqing and the rest to believe it. Dongfang Yu rested his hand on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder and smiled widely. "How you avoided them isn't important. It's enough that you're safe." Seeing this, Gong Shaoqing didn't continue his questioning. But this new little martial sister just seemed to be filled with mystery. Running into a dead end after a narrow escape from the demonic beast tide, yet still coming out completely unharmed, it was truly unimaginable. Lu Qinyue stared at Bailey Honghaung, her clear, soft eyes twinkling with doubt before finally disappearing. "Let's go back." Gong Shaoqing slowly spoke. "It's impossible to continue out past the entrance, so let's just go back now." After going through so many twists and turns, they were also extremely exhausted. They didn't know when the demonic beast tide would finish, so the earlier they left, the better. Bailey Honghaung and the rest didn't object. Running practically all day and all night had left them completely drained them. Resting was the best course of action. The 4 returned to Azure Water School. Because of the demonic beast tide, no demonic beasts tried to attack them. Hei Mu stared at the empty cliff, his eyes filled with terror. His attractive face was completely ashen. He peered down the cliff, the clouds and mist hindering his sight. Underneath there was a cool drizzle. If Bailey Hongzhuang fell off from here, there was simply no chance of survival. The young master had instructed him to carefully guard Bailey Honghaung before he left, so for the past few days, he had always been secretly watching her. In order to not influence Bailey Honghaung's training, he made sure to keep a set distance from Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang's performance was always stunning and never needed his help. But he never expected that there would suddenly be a demonic beast wave. Even though he was powerful, the demonic beast tide was still extremely difficult to deal with. Although he desperately wanted to save Bailey Hongzhuang, they were simply too far away. Bailey Hongzhuang was the woman his young master liked. He Mu kneeled beside the cliff, his dark eyes filled with despair and self-blame. His young master trusted him and gave Miss Bailey for him to protect. But not only did he fail to protect Miss Bailey, but even let her die in the demonic beast tide. Thinking up to here, he hated that it wasn't him who had fallen off the cliff. Like this, what face would he have when he saw the young master? But he couldn't do anything. Even if he were to commit suicide for forgiveness, he would still have to report to the young master first. He Mu slowly got up. Although his face was extremely unsightly, his steps were still firm as he left Wuxia Mountain. Dibei Chen listened to He Mu's report, the handsome smile on his face abruptly stiffening. His bright, clear eyes turned dark as if all of its light was engulfed by darkness, engulfed in a terrifying storm. You said Hongzhuang died in the demonic beast tide? His handsome face had frozen over, the smile on his face cold and iniquitous. His eyes were locked on He Mu, an enormous, terrifying power pressing onto him. The room trembled from the pressure, the atmosphere cold and dreadful. And Dibei Chen's face was even more frightful. Young master, your servant is incompetent. He Mu kneeled with both knees. He had no excuse. In fact, just standing in front of Dibei Chen unharmed was already extremely shameful. Chapter 275. Dibei Chen's face was terribly gloomy. To think that talented, cunning, black-bellied woman, that strong, resolute and decisive woman, the wife that he, Dibei Chen, had given his commitment to would fall. Bang! Dibei Chen's palm struck the table case made from top-quality pear wood, the terrible energy of his strength spreading out. He Mu, who was exposed to the shock, directly flew to the wall, spraying blood heavily which poured down to the ground. And that table case has long been turned into powder. He Mu rose up from the ground, supporting his injured body. He kneeled once again in front of Dibei Chen. He failed to protect the young master's most important person. His crime deserved 1,000,000 deaths. Eyes that were indifferent and incisive, like a wolf on the prairie, flashing like cold daggers, with boundless killing intent. However, Dibei Chen eventually waved his sleeves. We leave for Azure Water School. As long as he did not see the corpse of Bailey Hongzhuang, he will not believe that wise and clever person will fall. But young master, you are now. He Mu had yet to finish his words, that hawk-like falcon-sharp eyes have been locked on him. If he dared to say another word. Silence. He Mu did not dare to say any more words. The young master not killing him has been beyond his expectations. If he dared to say more, the young master will not be lenient. But now is the critical moment for the young master to recover his right. If he leaves now, no doubt it will be a lot more trouble. Looking at Dibei Chen, whose eyes showed firmness and decisiveness, He Mu understood, the young master has settled his mind on it. It seems that he still underestimated the significance of Miss Bailey on his young master's heart. Originally, although he felt that the young master is quite different to Miss Bailey, other people do not know, but he is very clear that the young master and Miss Bailey are husband and wife in name only and are not husband and wife for real. Thus he did not regard Miss Bailey as a true young madam. It now appears that Miss Bailey is the genuine young madam. Thinking until here, He Mu's heart sank. All of this is blamed on him. Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 4 people rushed for a few days on the road. Because the entrance of the road was being occupied by demonic beasts, they can only walk around it, wasting a lot of time. On the way, almost everyone is talking about the demonic beast tide. From some people showing grievous expressions, it could be seen that they must have relatives who had died at the Luoyun Mountain. Azure Water City. When Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 4 people arrived in Azure Water City, eyes showing surprise or delight fell on them along the road. Gong Xiaoqing and the rest as Azure Water School representatives, the news of them going to the Luoyun Mountain to accomplish the mercenary task has long been known. Almost everyone is concerned whether they can return safely because it is too difficult to escape from the demonic beast tide. In this half a month's time, the school's male and female students are simply worried. Dong Fangyu and Gong Xiaoqing are the objects of love for many female students. Even if they're not close enough, they are still their heart's fantasy. If the objects of their fantasy are gone, then their days in Azure Water School would be more boring. Lu Qingyue is also the dream of many men in Azure Water School, worthy to be called their dream lover. Even though many people know about Lu Qingyue's love for Gong Xiaoqing, this still cannot stop their inner fantasy. Not only Lu Qingyue, the newly enrolled Bailey Hongzhuang is also the object of affection for many men. On the appearance, on the beauty, Bailey Hongzhuang compared to Lu Qingyue is in no way inferior. Lu Qingyue already has a person she likes, but Bailey Hongzhuang is a new enrollee. They are full of hope. Chapter 276 Gong Xiaoqing's squad of 4 was comprised almost all of the dreams of the Azure Water School students. If this squad of 4 died in the Luoyin mountain range, then they'd really grieve. Therefore, the moment when Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 4 returned to Azure Water City, voices of excitement slowly followed and spread. Senior Dongfang and the others have safely returned. All of them are safe and sound. I did say that with their strength they'd definitely be alright. At least I can breathe easy now. These past few days I haven't been able to rest well. Today I can finally sleep easy. Ah, the goddess of my dreams, I feel it's my fortune to be able to see her once again. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled, her lips carried a hint of playfulness. The college was filled with a youthful atmosphere and gave people a refreshing feeling. In the Azure Water School, the reputation of Dongfang Yu and the other 2 were not just hot air. Speaking of which, it is commendable that so many students worried about their safety. Master, amongst the crowd there are many that are happy because you've safely returned. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang seemed to think that these discussions were entirely because of the other 3, Little Black couldn't help but give a reminder. As its master, how could she become a supporting character? According to rumors, Bailey Hongzhuang slightly arched her eyebrows. Then after spending a total of 3 days at the Azure Water School, other than Xia Jijia and the special enrollment students, she knew no one else. Master, right now your reputation is equal to Lu Qingyue's, the object of admiration for countless men. Ah. Little Black touched his head with both paws, his eyes bent into crescents. In just a few days so many people have Master in their thoughts. In the future, Master will become popular with the entire school. I don't know how many men will be captivated by her. With this though, Little Black couldn't help but be a bit proud. The 4 didn't tarry and swiftly walked into the Azure Water School. Running about for such a long time, everyone was exhausted. We first report to our teacher. This time with the sudden appearance of the beast tide, I don't know how many students were at the Luoyin mountain range. I'm afraid the teachers are very anxious. Gong Xiaoqing's calm and wise eyes flickered in thought. As a senior student of the Azure Water School and being familiar with the teacher, he understood what he should do. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others nodded slightly. Presumably, the teachers were also very worried about their safety in the past few days. When Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 4 arrived at the teacher's office, Lu Huayin and Fu Hongbo saw the 4 of them were safe and a touch of joy reached their eyes. Fu Hongbo promptly checked all 4 from head to toe. After determining that none of the 4 were seriously injured, he patted Gong Xiaoqing's and Dongfang Yu's shoulders. It's great that everyone could come back safe and sound. Lu Huayin sighed in relief. When they found out about the beast tide, they then knew that the situation wasn't good. They also learned that Gong Xiaoqing's groups and Cui Haoyin's group went to the Luoyin mountain range. In the past few days they have been very nervous. The Azure Water School special enrollment students can be said as the class the school has the most expectations in. If 2 groups are lost at the same time, then it really would. Teacher, has Cui Haoyin's group returned? Dongfang Yu asked softly. Fu Hongbo sighed and shook his head. They haven't returned yet. I went to inquire about the team but did not receive any news. Dongfang Yu's face sank slightly. Though they often compete and bet with Cui Haoyin and the others, in private their relationship is very good since they are all brothers. Chapter 277 If Cui Haoyin and the others met with trouble in the Luoyin mountain range, they wouldn't feel good either. They will definitely safely return, Bailey Hongzhuang said gently, her voice full of reassurance and comfort. At this point, they've done everything they could do and can only sit and wait for new information to come. Fu Hongbo nodded slightly, his dignified face was solemn. This time, the number of students tempering themselves in the Luoyin mountain range was not a few. As of now, those that have returned numbered no more than 10. With these words, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' hearts sank. Though they may not have known each other, they are all students of the Azure Water School. They also hope that the others will be safe. Ah, the school's losses this time aren't small. It was evident from the dark circles under Lu Huayan's eyes that he didn't rest well these past few days. This time even the principal and vice principal were alarmed. Bailey's Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes flashed. In regards to the principal and vice principal, she had a certain understanding. Azure Water School's principal, Ren Tianxiong, is a strong person. He is usually behind closed doors practicing. Unless there's something very important happening, he ordinarily wouldn't appear. The teachers are responsible for almost all the matters relating to the school. Vice Principal Huan Chuyu is a formidable rank 4 alchemist. In particular, his refinement skills can be regarded as having attained the height of perfection. Even in Fengbo country, the strongest alchemists are not higher than rank 4. Thus, this shows how formidable Huan Chuyu is. But this vice principal also immerses himself in studying the art of refinement all year long. Generally, towards the matters of the school, he also wouldn't lend his hand. This time, with both the principal and vice principal appearing together, the impact of the beast tide could be seen. If the loss of students this time is too high, perhaps we should slightly lower the threshold and recruit some students again. Lu Huayan showed a bit of tiredness and helplessness. This sort of situation has never happened before in the history of the Azure Water School. There is always risks with students venturing out to temper themselves. In the past, it's not that there weren't practitioners that have died, but compared to this time the loss is too big. They almost didn't even know how to explain it. Gong Shaoqing and the others had a touch of shock on their faces. Unexpectedly, they might once again admit students? From this point, they understood that this matter was extremely serious. The 4 of you must be tired after hurrying back here. Go and take a good rest first, Fu Hongbo said with concern. From the weariness these kids inadvertently showed, one could see that they definitely rushed back at top speed. Their bodies had long been overworked and must get a good rest. Then we will go back first. If there's a need, don't hesitate to call us. Gong Shaoqing's handsome and cold face was full of sincerity. His firm gaze was full of reliability. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows, clear eyes revealing a bit of surprise. Originally, she thought that the cold-blooded Gong Shaoqing would only practice by himself. She didn't expect for him to care so much about the school. Bailey Hongzhuang returned to the dormitory. She lied on her bed, her body completely limp. Xiao He and Xiao Ba as well as Baisher each found a comfortable place to lay down. Bailey Hongzhuang breathed deeply. With these few days of rushing back with such high intensity, her body showed a hint of discomfort. She had to enhance the physical strength of her body. Thinking of this point, Bailey Hongzhuang left her soft bed. From the primordial chaos ring she retrieved a large tub. After boiling some hot water, she poured the previously prepared body-tempering medicinal liquid into the tub. Chapter 278. Now her body was in a state of completely exhaustion. This kind of situation is exactly the best for absorbing the medical efficacy. Following the addition of the emerald green liquid, the originally clear water was slowly dyed with a slight shade of emerald green. The green color continued to spread in the water. It blended into the water, causing it to turn into an emerald green concoction. Bailey Hongzhuang stepped into the tub, warm liquid enveloping her body. Under the warmth of the hot water, her once strained muscles gradually relaxed. The medicine surged into the body through the pores, constantly enhancing the capabilities of the cells. Bailey Hongzhuang closed her eyes. This is also a type of enjoyment. The process of absorbing the medicine is not painful. On the contrary, it was very comfortable. However, to successfully absorb the medicine, it is necessary for one to utterly exhaust every bit of strength in their body. This is not an easy thing to do. In this comfortable environment, Bailey Hongzhuang could help but fall into a deep sleep. It slowly turned into night, sky full of stars shining brightly. Creak. A small sound came from outside the window. Bailey Hongzhuang still kept her eyes closed. She's been too tired these past few days, so she fell into a deep sleep once she relaxed. Master. Little Black shouted to Bailey Hongzhuang through a spiritual transmission. To visit so late at night, that person probably doesn't have good intentions. Master. Little Black continuously called out twice before Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows twitched, regaining consciousness in a short amount of time. Her phoenix eyes were as deep as a tranquil lake with a trace of coldness. One hand grabbed the clothes next to her and covered her body. With flowing white clothing and cascading ink-like hair, she was like a watercolor landscape painting, both elegant and charming. At the same time, a figure in white appeared inside the house. Wifey. The familiar voice gave Bailey Hongzhuang a shock. In her line of sight, Bei Chen still wore a soft white robe decorated with dark plum blossoms, looking fresh and refined. His handsome godlike face held a mischievous smile, star-like pupils shining brightly and giving off an infinite brilliance. It's just that Bei Chen's upturned eyebrows revealed a hint of ridicule and teasing. Bailing Hongzhuang became aware of the embarrassing situation she was in. Almost all the clothes covering her are white and her body was partially visible. Bei Chen's two star-like eyes were clearly beginning to turn into a smoldering gaze. His sight locked on her body. A determinately ambiguous atmosphere filled the air. Entering in the middle of the night and not even through the front door. This isn't the actions of a gentleman. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows slightly turned. Her black lacquer-like eyes didn't show any nervousness. In fact, it was rather abnormally calm. Bei Chen's beautiful thin lips curved into an evil smile. His eyes unscrupulously eyed Bailey Hongzhuang up and down. "I am your husband. Is there something wrong with coming into your room late at night?" Bei Chen's current mood is very good, exceptionally good. On the way here, his face had been sullen and his heart uneasy. But upon arriving at the Azure Water School, he heard students talk about Bailey Hongzhuang's safe return. His heart went wild with joy, yet was still somewhat unsettled. He only wanted to quickly rush to see Bailey Hongzhuang, so didn't even think about knocking the door and just directly came in through the window. The moment he saw Bailey Hongzhuang, his heart went from the depths of hell to the top of the heavens. It's just that seeing such a charming and tempting picture in front of him, he became a bit restless. Bailey Hongzhuang choked, "You do know we aren't really an actual couple. We weren't before. That doesn't mean we aren't now." Bei Chen slightly raised his handsome eyebrows, his star-like eyes flashing with a cunningly ambiguous look. "Actually, hubby wants wifey to give birth to my child." Chapter 279. In a flash, all the demonic beasts flew away in front of Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Baisher, who was on her shoulder. His face was filled with pride and anticipation as he happily rubbed against Bailey Hongzhuang, clearly wanting praise. But Bailey Hongzhuang just smacked Baisher's head, retorting angrily, "You could have just roared and solved everything. You almost let your master jump off a cliff." Now, as she remembered how she had given up hope and nearly fell into despair, this little guy could have long fixed everything with just a call. When the eagerly awaiting Baisher was smacked instead of rewarded, his big watery eyes filled with a misty sheen as his little mouth formed a pout. Its small body curled up in Bailey Hongzhuang's bosom, appearing very pitiful. Even though she knew that the little guy was deliberately acting pitiful, Bailey Hongzhuang no longer had the heart to scold him anymore. Instead of taking out the demonic crystal from the armored rhinoceros to give to Baisher, the tears in his eyes instantly disappeared when he saw the crystal. His eyes shined brightly as he immediately snatched the crystal and began to gnaw on it. Really, this guy truly was best at acting cute. Bailey Hongzhuang put Baisher back onto her shoulders. Her plight was over, but what about Gong Shaoqing and the others? Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to leave, she suddenly heard a small sound. Her eyes turned cold. There was actually somebody here. Bailey Hongzhuang's spirit power surged through her body as she cautiously approached the direction of the sound, prepared to fight. At the back of the mountain, a big boulder blocked her sight. The other person was clearly behind that boulder. "Who's there?" Her cold voice was laced with a warning as she stared at the rock. "Miss, I'm only here to avoid the demonic beast tide." A hoarse, low voice came from behind the boulder, causing Bailey Hongzhuang to frown a little. From her voice she could tell that he was in a weak state and injured. Life-threateningly injured. Bailey Hongzhuang's dark eyes were sharp. She did not want Baisher's secret to be exposed. Holding the ice-chilling sword, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly sneaked past the boulder. A man was lying on the boulder, black hair pouring down in torrents beside him. His handsome face was like a piece of art carved by the gods themselves, sword-like eyebrows long and straight like a willow. His eminent eyes were deep like a black hole, cold and ruthless. He was wearing a soft black robe, the color deep and inky, propitious clouds embroidered on it with silver thread. It was luxurious yet subdued. The man's robes were slightly loose, revealing his exquisite collarbones and chin, radiating sex appeal. If you looked down just a bit, dark blood had already dyed the robes red. With only a glance, Bailey Hongzhuang could already tell the injury was very serious. But even in such a situation, the man actually still smiled. His smile was cold and violent, but it was still impossible to deny his handsome face, still filled with charm and fascination. In short, this man was extremely dangerous. Bailey Hong's intuition told her that the man wasn't simple and wouldn't allow himself to be touched. It's better to just leave. Just as Bailey Hong turned around to leave, an icy voice rang, "Woman, why don't we make a deal?" A trace of interest flitted past Moyunju's dark eyes. When he saw Bailey Hong and Baisher, he thought they were rather interesting. Chapter 280. However, it was like the two circles were stamped onto Little Black's white furred face with blushers, bright red and eye-catching. "We didn't see anything, nothing at all." "What did you guys see?" Bailey Hongzhuang held her forehead with her hand. "The shame, the shame." Little Black ran back and forth on the table, bashfully covered his cheeks. "Don't know, no one has seen anything." "Do I believe that?" Bailey Hongzhuang was helpless. While Little Black and Little White were continuing to act bashful without end, the White Lion had long gone to sleep. Although his eyes were still trembling. "It seems that she can no longer take a bath in her room." Knock, knock, knock. Urgent knocks came from the door. Bailey Hongzhuang slightly wrinkled her eyebrows. "This guy hasn't left yet?" Opening the door, Bailey Hongzhuang discovered that it wasn't Dibei Qin standing outside, but Xia Jiqing instead. "Hongzhuang, it's a relief that you're okay." Xia Jiqing's pretty face was filled with excitement. She opened her arms and directly gave Bailey Hongzhuang a big hug. "Hearing the news about the demonic beast tide really scared me." Looking at the worry and lament in Xia Jiqing's eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang felt a little warmth in her heart. Even though the trip to the Luoyun mountain range was filled with danger, coming back and seeing her friends being so worried made her feel very happy. "I am very lucky, how could I die so easily?" Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth curved into a brilliant smile. "Once I got news about your safe return, I immediately rushed over. I'm glad to see that you are fine. Am I disturbing your rest?" Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head slightly. "I've already had a good rest." Under the effects of the medicine, every cell in her body was relaxed and strengthened. It was a moment of unspeakable comfort. After hearing Bailey Hongzhuang speak so calmly, Xia Jiqing's pretty face bloomed with a bright smile. What in the world was going on with this demonic beast tide? Both of them sat on the edge of the bed and Xia Jiqing asked Bailey Hongzhuang about her experiences in the Luoyun mountain range. After she recounted the terror of the demonic beast tide in detail, Xia Jiqing was once again scared. It was fortunate that she wasn't strong enough and couldn't go to the Luoyun mountain range. Or else she would have already lost her life. That guy, Bai Junyu, still hasn't returned. Xia Jiqing's were filled with worry. Even though she didn't have a good impression of this guy, Bai Junyu, he was still her friend. Naturally, it was inevitable that she would worry. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes sank slightly. Due to the demonic beast tide, the number of injured and dead practitioners were many. If it wasn't because of the timely appearance of the white tiger showing his authority, she didn't know how she would have ended up. One could only hope that Bai Junyu and the others would be able to make it back safely. Bai Junyu and the others' strength isn't weak, they should be able to return safely. I hope so. Xia Jiqing faintly sighed. The world is unpredictable. Recently the entire Azure Water School had an oppressive atmosphere, especially when a report came in that a certain student died. Her inky black phoenix eyes were heavy. Bailey Hongzhuang also understood. These days the practitioners of the Azure Water School didn't feel well in their hearts. After the two talked for a while, Xia Jiqing didn't leave and both directly went to sleep. The next day the two heard light footsteps faintly mixed with anxious voices coming from the corridor. Bailey Hongzhuang and Xia Jiqing glanced at each other, eyes filled with a questioning look. After cleaning up a bit they opened the door. They only saw Bai Junyu's door opened with Dongfang Yu and the others gathered inside the room. "You're here." Dongfang Yu's constantly sunny face looked as if it was covered with dark clouds, heavy and full of haze. Chapter 281, Bai Junyu returned? Her clear and bright eyes held a touch of concern. If not so, everyone wouldn't have gathered here. Dongfang Yu nodded slightly. Cui Haoyin and Bai Junyu are seriously injured, Zhang Yunfeng's situation is a little better and another person has died. Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes narrowed. Compared to before, this result was much better than what they had expected. However, hearing that another person died, her heart couldn't help but skip a beat. Are Bai Junyu and Cui Haoyin's injuries serious? Bailey Hongzhuang knitted her eyebrows. Their dormitory wasn't small, but at the moment both teachers and students were all gathered here. Thus couldn't see the situation inside. Very serious, especially Cui Haoyan. Vice Principal is diagnosing and giving him treatment right now. Hopefully he'll be alright. Her perceptive and bright eyes flashed. Vice Principal, Rank 4 Alchemist. To date, she has yet to see the Vice Principal's true ability. Bailey Hongzhuang explained the situation to Xia Jiqing before slowly walking towards the dormitory room. She also wanted to see Cui Haoyan's and Bai Junyu's injuries and perhaps be of some help. When Gong Xiaoqing and the others caught sight of her, they slightly nodded their heads, but otherwise said nothing. At the moment, the Vice Principal was in the midst of diagnosing Cui Haoyan's condition. They were afraid of disturbing him, so they didn't make a sound. When Bailey Hongzhuang caught sight of Cui Haoyan's and Bai Junyu's appearances, her eyes faltered and a look of shock appeared on her face. She only saw Bai Junyu's pale face, ragged clothing and bared skin covered in scars. Almost no part was unscathed. Dark red blood stained his clothes, giving off a tragic aura. It could be seen from the scars that the flesh on his right shoulder was bitten off by a demonic beast. It's a miracle Bai Junyu could survive with such a serious injury. However, his injuries weren't the worst. Cui Haoyan's injuries were the most serious. She only saw Cui Haoyan's dark complexion and festering wounds on every inch of his chest that were obviously due to the corroding nature of a toxin. Now the toxin had already quickly permeated through his entire body. Large rotted sections of skin were horrifying to the eyes and even the blood from his body was black. Vice President, can their injuries be healed? Gong Xiaoqing's brows wrinkled, his voice nervous and worried. Huan Chuyo's wise eyes held a sense of heaviness. As long as Bai Junyu can survive past this critical point, he'll be able to live. Cui Haoyan. The toxin he was infected with. Even I can't tell what kind of poison it is within a short period of time. I could only give him a detoxification pill before researching the poison. Only, I don't know if this child can survive until I can find a solution. His words caused the hearts of everyone present to sink. Zhang Yunfeng even lost control and started to cry. It was my fault. It was because of saving me that the poisonous python landed an attack on Cui Haoyan. Zhang Yunfeng's tears were endlessly dropping down like pearls from a broken necklace. I was me who hurt him. Lu Qingyue patted Zhang Yunfeng's shoulders. Yunfeng, this was no one's fault. You shouldn't blame yourself. However, Zhang Yunfeng still stubbornly believed, it was all because of me. I would rather the person lying on the bed be me. Qingyue, give Bai Junyu the recovering yuan pill from my medicine box, the vice principal said. Yes, master. Lu Qingyue opened the medical box and pulled out one of the white porcelain bottles within, easily retrieving the recovering yuan pill and feeding it to Bai Junyu. Bailey Hongzhuang's dazzling pitch-black phoenix eyes showed a glint of astonishment. She looked at Lu Qinin with surprise. It turns out that the vice principal was Lu Qinyue's master. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.